I, Hermione, travel through time to Marvel to be the savior. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 601, Beautiful Agent Peggy Carter. The Red Skull's ambition is so exaggerated that although the possibility of success is very low, the military power of the Marvel Universe is so great that it is exaggerated. In other words, it is almost impossible for the Red Skull to rule the world. But if he goes crazy and uses the power of the Infinity Stones to destroy the world, it is still possible, although the possibility is also very low. The next day, the sun was shining brightly. Last night, Hermione rarely slept in. She went to find James Barnes. When she found that he was frozen in the snow sea under the cliff, Hermione came back. She did not bring James Barnes back. Like the evil Dr. Arnim Zola, both of them play an important role in the future story. The reason why Hermione went to see was mainly to see if James Barnes was still alive. If he was directly blown to death, it would be difficult for the future story to continue. Fortunately, there was no big accident. Peggy Carter, the beautiful agent, had just finished her work, and she met the masked female warrior Hermione. Peggy Carter always felt strange about Hermione. There is a feeling of acquaintance, not because Hermione has lived in Key Continent for a few years, causing Peggy Carter to completely forget her, because, since the system level reached level 56, all the worlds Hermione has traveled through have begun to revolve around her. Children will have this feeling in their childhood. When I open my eyes, the world will light up, and when I close my eyes, the world will be dark. Therefore, we will subconsciously think that the whole world revolves around us. But when I grow up, I understand that other people think so too. If you are unlucky, you may be a lowly person for the rest of your life. Hermione has been smart since she was a child. She has seen through many things and has thought about the operation of the universe. Therefore, she rarely has the absurd idea that the world revolves around herself. In fact, the world will continue to operate without anyone, until, with her continuous efforts, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Now, although the world is not really revolving around her, at least time is real. When she leaves Marvel, the time here will be restricted, and when she comes back, the show will continue here. So, although Hermione went to live and battle through the heavens for a while, when she returned to the Marvel world, the time here was still the time when she left last time. This seems simple, and those who have played the game think it is normal. 99% of role-playing games are like this. However, when all this happens in real life, only Miss Hermione, the person involved, will understand how terrifying it is. When she was almost forgetting the storyline in Marvel, she came, but others still remembered it deeply, because in their eyes, Miss Hermione had never left. This is the most terrifying. Although the beautiful agent Peggy Carter did not eat and sleep with Hermione like Alexander in Mutant City, the beautiful agent Peggy Carter's feeling about Hermione was not wrong in Hermione's behavior in Marvel at the end. That kind of mystery reveals an aura of omnipotence. In fact, Miss Hermione is not really omnipotent, it just depends on who she is compared with. If compared with these ordinary people, Hermione is indeed very powerful and close to omnipotence. Hermione, thank you for your hard work in arresting Arnim Zola yesterday. The beautiful agent has already checked the information. Yesterday, the performance of the female warrior Hermione was the most outstanding. Her shooting skills were so exquisite that people were amazed. She even knew the legendary gun-shaking technique to make the bullet turn. This kind of thing that only appears in science fiction movies. The female warrior Hermione actually knows it. Even the military has begun to study the gun-shaking technique, how to make the bullet turn. A lot of sacrifices were made yesterday. I can't take too much credit, Hermione rarely said with emotion. It's all for world peace. The beautiful agent Peggy Carter nodded. Everything they are doing now, the people they kill, the blood they stain, can be explained as for peace. Otherwise, they will not be able to sleep at night. The villains are for aggression, and they are for protecting peace. Let's go see Steve Rogers, Hermione suddenly suggested. Hermione is of course not concerned about Captain America. In fact, because of the uniqueness of Marvel stories, Hermione can hardly have too much affection for them, because every movie is a new superhero and a new male protagonist. Even if Hermione appeared beside them as a god for the system option task, there were very few stories and interactions between them. It was far inferior to Harry Potter, let alone Battle Through the Heavens. Therefore, even if Captain America was killed, Hermione would at most feel regret, but would not be sad at all. People are emotional creatures. If there is no emotional communication at all, then there will naturally be no sadness and sorrow. In contrast, if Harry, Ron and Ginny died, Hermione might be a little sad. After all, they have experienced many stories together. Even if you just recall it casually, it will make people feel a little gloomy. The Marvel Universe is much worse in this regard. Maybe Hermione has a little more feelings for Iron Man Tony. After all, Hermione has experienced 2 movie stories of Iron Man. Since it is not for comforting Steve Rogers, then Hermione's proposal to the beautiful Agent Peggy Carter at this time is naturally for the system option. 3 options. Either invite the beautiful Agent Peggy Carter to have afternoon tea, either perform a wonderful sexy dance for Peggy Carter on the spot, or take her to see Steve Rogers. Option 2 was naturally eliminated first. Having afternoon tea together is naturally good. The beautiful Agent Peggy Carter is also a hot beauty in the 3-dimensional world, but compared with the 3-dimensional world, Hermione prefers the beauties in the 1st and 2nd dimensions. If she had afternoon tea with Alexander and Yif in the 1st dimension, it would naturally be a wonderful thing. Having tea with the beauties in the 3-dimensional world has become a simple exchange of friends, without the romance of flowers, snow and moon. However, the reason why Hermione chose to do 3 is mainly because the rewards for the task in option 3 are more. They are all part-time jobs, and the difficulty of the work is similar. Of course, the one with better benefits and treatment will be given priority. Well, okay. When it comes to Steve Rogers, the expression of the beautiful Agent Peggy Carter is a little heavy. Hermione comforted him. Although Steve Rogers has lost his teacher and father, Dr. Abraham Erskine. Dr. Abraham Erskine was the benefactor who helped Steve Rogers from a skinny and weak dwarf who could not beat anyone to a big and strong super war god. He was also the one who strengthened Captain America's faith, a very important figure. But when Captain America Steve Rogers first transformed, he was shot and killed by a spy sent by Hydra. Now, Steve Rogers has lost his good friend James Barnes since childhood. Hermione's words sounded gentle, but the meaning in the language was enough to make the person involved collapse. Hermione took the hand of the beautiful Agent Peggy Carter, looked into her eyes and said, "But, at least, Steve Rogers still has you." As soon as these words fell, there was no doubt that thousands of waves were rippling in the heart of the beautiful Agent Peggy Carter and her. Yes, even if Steve Rogers lost everything in the war, at least she, Peggy Carter, would be by Steve's side. Chapter 602, Revisiting the Old Place. Under Hermione's guidance, the beautiful Agent Peggy Carter came to see Steve Rogers. He can be seen sitting in his former soldier's dormitory, silent, because his body was transformed. He couldn't even cry at this moment. The sadness and sorrow in his heart, he couldn't even express it. He was like an iron-blooded warrior. "Steve," Peggy Carter called out, and Steve Rogers looked over, but didn't express much. He was still immersed in his memories. Sometimes men do need this process, but sometimes, men also need someone to accompany them. For example, now. Hermione is more careful than Peggy Carter. Although she went to the world of Fights Break Sphere for a few years, she didn't forget what happened here at all. It can't be said that it is absolute. She still remembers that when she was here, Dr. Abraham Erskine was also here. It seems that a long time has passed now. When a person dies, it is like a light goes out. Many things, no longer revisited, can no longer be remembered. "Come, let's get drunk. The world is a painful abyss, we need to get drunk." Peggy Carter looked at Hermione. When they came, the female warrior Hermione did not mention drinking. However, she did not refuse. Steve Rogers rarely smiled bitterly, but he still did not say a word, because he understood that Hermione and Peggy Carter were here to accompany him. Even if he did not say a word, they would not complain. Drinking, even if it can forget the short-term troubles. Once he and Dr. Abraham Erskine failed to drink once, his good friend James Barnes also hoped that he would have wine to drink in another world. But, in the end, only Peggy Carter got drunk. Steve Rogers and Hermione could not get drunk. Affected by advanced magic, Steve Rogers did not understand why the female warrior Hermione could not get drunk, but he knew his situation. When he was in pain, he could not even shed tears, not to mention expecting to get drunk by drinking. "Can you still drink?" Steve Rogers asked with a glass of wine. Hermione smiled and said, "I can drink 1,000 cups without getting drunk." Steve Rogers didn't know whether what she said was true or not, but the two of them drank one cup after another in silence until the night. Steve Rogers was remembering his dead friends and benefactors, and Hermione also had her own concerns. Sometimes she felt that the system was so cruel. She was originally a carefree beautiful girl, why did she have to be the savior? But when she was the savior, the system options that popped up were not particularly satisfying. It seemed that she only had a god's perspective, seemingly knowing everything and being able to do everything. But in fact, there were very few things she could do. Although she has been getting stronger, but after becoming stronger, what she did was no different from before. You can say she was Versailles or that she was pretending to be sad, but those living people did die. They died in front of her eyes. Some were killed by her, and some were killed by the enemy. In this situation, she was true to her nature, so what was wrong with accompanying Steve Rogers to drink a few more cups? Maybe he really drank too much. Hermione's magic influence became smaller. Even if Steve Rogers is a super soldier, his body has its limits. When he was drunk, he looked at the female warrior Hermione wearing a white mask through the wine. Suddenly, a sense of familiarity came into his mind. He was eager to know the answer, so he asked, "Have we met before? What do you think?" Hermione took a bite of the food. She would not just drink. "You are a great gunner. You are also very skilled. You are also very mysterious with a mask. But others think it is normal. You are more like a super soldier than me." Steve Rogers kept thinking about something, and then said, "My life has been ups and downs. I have been confused and bullied, but I have never given up. I have always insisted on what I think is peace and worked hard for it." "That's good. Don't forget your original intention." Hermione also praised him. She agreed that Steve Rogers, as a superhero, is different from other superheroes. It is hard to say what it is, but it is different. Although it took Hermione 2 years to leave the Key continent, she still remembered it after she returned to the Marvel world. Steve Rogers looked at Hermione's eyes, which were very beautiful. Even though he thought that the eyes of the beautiful Agent Peggy Carter were charming enough, he had to admit that the eyes of the female warrior Hermione were the deepest and most beautiful of all the women he had ever seen. "I had a noble person guiding me at the beginning, which made me step by step to where I am today." When Steve Rogers said this, it was obvious that he was already testing. "And, when many events happened, she was by my side, so I really want to know, at this moment, is that noble person still there?" Hermione smiled and said, "When you doubt like this, even if the fact does not exist, it actually has the answer in your heart, right?" Hermione did not deny or admit it. Steve Rogers was smart for once, and he laughed immediately. I don't know if he was laughing at the ridiculousness of everything in the world, or if he was laughing at the fact that his life was actually directed by someone. "I understand." Steve Rogers drank the wine in one gulp. At this moment, he actually said with some heroism, "If so much pain is destined, then what can I choose for myself?" Steve Rogers is not stupid. From the moment Hermione appeared in his life as a savior, he understood that no matter what Hermione became, she actually existed. In other words, with her divine power, she was fully capable of saving Dr. Abraham Erskine and James Barnes. But she didn't do that. In other words, their deaths were all arranged by God. Hermione smiled and replied, "Choose. All we can do is choose." Hermione may have too many choices arranged by the system. At this moment, She seemed to have transformed into the system and gave Steve Rogers a choice. For example, now, you can choose to leave in silence, you can choose to continue drinking, or you can choose to get angry and curse the cruelty and injustice of fate. After listening to Hermione's words, Steve Rogers was silent for a long time. He also thought and savored for a long time. Yes, most of the time, we have no choice. Life is like a drama arranged by God. We can only perform it according to the script, even if we don't want to. However, the few choices given by the female warrior Hermione, small and ordinary choices, are exactly what Steve Rogers can decide now. Maybe, you are right. Steve Rogers drank the wine again in one gulp. He was still not drunk. The powerful super soldier cells in his body were frantically digesting the alcohol, keeping his brain awake at all times. Putting down the wine glass, Steve Rogers suddenly asked Hermione with a firm look, "I will call you God in private. God, what should I do next?" Chapter 603, Pointing the Way. When people are confused, it is normal to ask God and hope to get guidance from God. Hermione never thought that she would be privately called God by the superhero Captain America Steve Rogers. She smiled and said, "Privately, just call me Miss Hermione." Steve Rogers insisted. "Your powerful ability makes it impossible for me to disrespect you like this. If you really feel bad, just call me God." God is someone else, and you calling me like that will make me uncomfortable. God? Steve Rogers nodded and agreed with the title. "Please God for guidance," Hermione replied. "If nothing unexpected happens, the end of Hydra will come after we capture the evil Dr. Arnim Zola." Luck. Even the villain organization Hydra has luck, and now their luck has run out. What awaits you is the final battle between you and the leader of Hydra, the Red Skull. This answer was not too unexpected to Steve Rogers. Even if there was no instruction from God, Hermione, Steve Rogers would have planned this way. But for some reason, when he realized that his life was arranged, he inexplicably felt a kind of sadness in his heart. Will there be any accidents in this operation? I don't want to lose anyone anymore. While Steve Rogers was talking, his eyes were on the beautiful Agent Peggy Carter beside him. Because the war was not over yet and the peace in his heart had not yet arrived, he had never dared to truly confess to Peggy Carter. However, Peggy Carter has been by Steve Rogers' side since he was weak, and now she is the person Steve Rogers cares about the most. As for God, Hermione, Steve knows that she is more important, but how can a person like God? Besides, Steve Rogers still doesn't know what this God looks like. Although I am God, I can't predict everything. Everything in the world changes rapidly, and even I am not omnipotent. Hermione answered like this, and it is likely that what Steve Rogers is worried about will not happen. Beautiful Agent Peggy Carter will not die. As for the one that Steve Rogers forgot the most, he forgot. That is himself. Steve Rogers carried Peggy Carter back. He knew that the female warrior Hermione was a God. Even if this God liked to travel the world as an ordinary person, he knew the secret and naturally could not treat Hermione as an ordinary person. Whether in Hogwarts or in the Key Continent, there is no doubt that Hermione has the highest status in Marvel. After being captured, Dr. Evil Arnim Zola was interrogated. The interrogation method was very special. The military did not torture Dr. Evil Arnim Zola severely. They knew the power of this doctor. Even if you are an enemy, the greater your ability, the more attention you will get. In order to obtain all the information that Dr. Evil Arnim Zola knew, the military did not hesitate to use special chips to exchange. First, tell Dr. Evil Arnim Zola that James Barnes, a friend of the famous Captain America, was blown off the cliff and died during this operation. Dr. Evil Arnim Zola was silent for a while and replied, "I can only express my regret. In fact, we died a lot of people, mainly the female warrior wearing a white mask. Her bullets were so terrible that they could turn and killed many people in Hydra. Even Captain America didn't kill as many as she did. She has already won the title of bloody female killer in Hydra. You should understand that if we don't provide special means, with the crimes you committed within Hydra, even if you are shot 100 times, it won't be enough." When he said this, Dr. Evil Arnim Zola was nervous. He was different from the brainwashed soldiers of Hydra. The soldiers of Hydra were basically not afraid of death. However, Dr. Evil Arnim Zola was very smart, and the brainwashing of the Red Skull was useless to him. So, if he could live, Dr. Evil Arnim Zola certainly didn't want to die. He pretended to be calm, looked at the delicious food in front of him, and ate it without hesitation. He made two plans: either accept failure. This is his last meal. If the negotiation is successful, he can eat such delicious food for a long time, but it is almost impossible to get freedom again. Dr. Evil Arnim Zola would not expect it. Being alive is already a blessing in disguise. I think, as a military leader, you are willing to waste time talking to me. You definitely don't want to kill me casually. The military negotiator smiled and said, "You are very smart. So let's speak frankly. If you want to live, tell us everything we want to know. As for your current position, the only thing I can promise you is that as long as you cooperate well, your meals will not be worse than today's." While the military leader was talking, he took out a knife and fork. Someone brought a new steak, medium rare. When the knife cut the steak, it was still bleeding. Looking at the blood, the evil Dr. Arnim Zola smiled. Captain America, without waiting for the beautiful Agent Peggy Carter to wake up, was fully armed and single-handedly broke into the last base of Hydra according to the instructions of God. Hermione naturally followed him. After reading the system task she had chosen, she said to Steve Rogers, "I can tell you clearly that I can fight the enemy with you next. However, after getting into the enemy, I will pretend to be hit by the enemy's high-tech weapons and disappear temporarily. You don't have to worry about me dying. If nothing unexpected happens, no one in the current Hydra organization should be able to kill me." This was said with considerable confidence. Steve Rogers did not ask Hermione why God did this. If he asked, it was arranged by God. Okay. Steve rode on the modified cool motorcycle and started his last battle of revenge. The last base of Hydra is hidden in a forest, which is heavily guarded by layers of soldiers. Hermione still wears a white mask, but today she changed her clothes and rode a cool motorcycle. However, unlike Captain America's motorcycle, her motorcycle has not been modified too much, but it is full of power. Because Hermione's operation is more flexible than Steve Rogers, she does not need to modify too many weapons. Just deal with the enemies in front, leave the enemies on the left, right, and back to me. Although he knew that the female warrior Hermione was a god, Steve Rogers was still a little worried because the battle was against the last lair of Hydra this time, which was absolutely dangerous. He wanted to share the enemy with the female warrior Hermione, but Hermione had already taken out the rocket launcher, and although her motorcycle was not as modified as his, it was unexpected that when Hermione held the rocket launcher in both hands, the motorcycle under her butt could drive automatically. Awesome. Steve could only admire it. It was the first time that Steve Rogers saw a motorcycle driving automatically in the mountains and jungles. This kind of operation can probably only be done by God. With a whoosh, Hermione had pressed the switch, and a terrifying rocket flashed with dazzling sparks and attacked the enemy tank. Boom. The explosion was deafening! Chapter 604 Red Skull's Nightmare. The Red Skull of Hydra. His existence has always been a nightmare for others. Now, under the joint pressure of Steve Rogers and the female warrior Hermione, he actually had a nightmare. This is an incredible thing. In the nightmare, he, the Red Skull, is no longer the terrifying existence that makes people tremble with fear. On the contrary, he becomes weak and helpless. The Red Skull's original name is John Schmidt. His childhood was also extremely miserable. He was born in a turbulent era and was displaced throughout his life. He has seen a lot of human dangers, so he hates humans. While destroying humans, his only goal is to stand on the top of all humans. He wants to look down on those who have bullied him. Today's Red Skull is very powerful. The Hydra forces under his command are a big worry for many military forces. His biggest opponent is Steve Rogers, the guy who was injected with super soldier serum like him. Originally, he didn't take Steve Rogers too seriously, but now, when he wakes up from a nightmare, he encounters his last base being attacked by Steve Rogers. This is too much. The Red Skull was so angry that he started smashing things. In the nightmare, he was helpless and a weak child. But in reality, he was not. He was a terrifying existence. No matter what the cost, you must catch him for me. The capture of the evil Dr. Arnim Zola proved Steve Rogers' ability. But today, he, the Red Skull, also wanted to capture Steve Rogers alive. He wanted to torture this extremely hateful superhero to death bit by bit. Only in this way can he eliminate the hatred in his heart. Most of the Hydra people began to move out, using various extremely advanced weapons at the time to attack Steve Rogers and the female warrior Hermione. Just the dense bullets and deafening artillery fire around, ordinary people here would be shocked to bleed. The trees in the woods were instantly riddled with holes. This is the horror of hot weapons. Steve Rogers looked back at the female warrior Hermione. Although he knew that she was a god, and should not fall in such a battle, he still couldn't help worrying. However, what Steve Rogers saw was that the enemy's artillery fire was fierce. But Hermione was sitting on an automatic off-road motorcycle, and the weapon she held in her hands was more fierce than the enemy. Unfortunately, the enemy's attacks could not hit. But none of her artillery fire was wasted. Every bullet, every shell, hit the enemy accurately. Nightmare. At this moment, the female warrior wearing a white mask has undoubtedly become the nightmare of many Hydra people. In the past, they were other people's nightmares. Now, it's the other way around. But Hydra was brainwashed by the Red Skull. Even if the artillery fire was fierce, boom boom boom, many people were blown to pieces, and no complete teeth could be found. However, just as Hermione was escorting Steve Rogers to approach the Hydra headquarters, a terrifying beam of light suddenly hit Hermione's chariot directly. In an instant, the dazzling fire and explosion did not appear, but disappeared directly. This is Hydra's new weapon. Hermione. Even though Steve Rogers got the script at the beginning, he couldn't help but worry at this moment. Hermione still disappeared. Just now, she was the nightmare of this group of Hydra, the female warrior. Now that she was finally hit and completely disappeared, the Hydra people were all excited, and everyone had a smile on their face. And they attacked Steve Rogers frantically. Next, it was Steve Rogers' turn to perform. In fact, although Hermione just performed invincible, Steve Rogers' performance was not bad. His specially modified motorcycle and various weapons also eliminated a lot of enemies. But, Steve Rogers is a person after all. No matter how strong he can be, there is a limit. If he continues to stay here and fight with this group of Hydra people day and night, then when will Steve Rogers be able to kill in front of the Red Skull? So, he also thought of a script in his mind. It's very risky, because he heard several Hydra leaders say that they want to capture them alive, and the sword and the gun have no eyes. It is very likely that Steve Rogers will be self-defeating and be killed instead. But with his reputation, Steve Rogers felt that he could take a risk. So, while letting his motorcycle be blown up by the enemy, he used a shield to protect the vital parts of his body, and then rushed into the enemy to fight hand-to-hand. If he continued to fight with hot weapons, it would be difficult for Steve Rogers to achieve his plan. Now only hand-to-hand combat could have the possibility of being captured alive. Even in hand-to-hand combat, Steve Rogers, as a super soldier, was terrifying. After killing dozens of enemies who also fought hand-to-hand with Steve Rogers was finally captured alive by the enemy. The enemy was overjoyed. This is an incredible military achievement! The Hydra soldiers who captured Steve Rogers alive were so happy that their mouths were crooked at this moment. On the one hand, they could take revenge, and on the other hand, they thought about being promoted to a higher position and reaching the peak of their lives in the future. Boom, boom, boom. They went up and punched Steve Rogers a few times, beating him so hard that his body could not stand upright. Be gentle, don't kill him. If he disappeared instantly after hitting the female warrior Hermione just now, it would be worthless. As long as Hermione's corpse is kept and brought to the Red Skull, it will be a great military achievement. Not to mention, Steve Rogers, the biggest threat to Hydra, is captured alive. Only the people of Hydra know how great this achievement is. The Red Skull learned that the female warrior in the white mask was blown to death, and Steve Rogers was also captured. He was so happy that he couldn't help but want to dance on the spot. "Bring him to me immediately." The Red Skull wanted to see Steve Rogers kneel down and beg for mercy after being tortured by him. Only in this way can he relieve his hatred. Although Steve Rogers was beaten, the enemy was also careful not to be beaten to death. The pain in the body also returned to normal under the rapid repair of the super soldier cells. This is a superhero, who is fundamentally different from ordinary people. Come to the Red Skull. The Red Skull also wants to get rid of Steve Rogers, the biggest threat to his heart. Otherwise, he would not be so stupid as to come to see this Steve Rogers in person. Long time no see, Steve Rogers. Red Skull looked at Steve Rogers, who was tied up, and his special battle suit was full of military boots. It can be seen that Steve Rogers had been beaten after being captured alive by his men. However, even so, it was difficult to eliminate the hatred in Red Skull's heart. If it weren't for this guy, his Hydra's power would continue to expand, instead of one base after another being uprooted. Long time no see, Red Skull. I came to see you. Finally saw the Red Skull, the demon who created wars and made countless people bleed and cry. Although I saw it last time and fought briefly, but only this time. Steve Rogers looked at the Red Skull in his military uniform in front of him, and he felt a sense of fate. The two, one good and one evil, finally fought to the end. Red Skull's eyes were a little strange, and he always felt that something was wrong. Chapter 605 Captain America frozen in sleep. Red Skull has been fighting with Steve Rogers for so long that he even knows him better than Steve Rogers himself, because the one who knows you best is always your enemy. Red Skull was not surprised that Steve Rogers could come alone. At the beginning, Steve Rogers went alone to rescue his good friend James Barnes, and he succeeded in the end. I heard that his brother James Barnes died in order to capture Dr. Arnim's Ola of Hydra last time. Steve Rogers is eager for revenge, and it is understandable that he breaks into the Hydra base alone for revenge. Of course, there is also the female warrior Hermione accompanying him, so Steve Rogers is not alone. What do you mean by this? You want to tell me that you were caught to see me on purpose? Red Skull was angry and punched Steve Rogers in the stomach with his fist as big as a casserole, causing the latter to bend over in pain. Then Red Skull grabbed Steve Rogers' hair and shouted angrily, "Steve, I admit that you are very powerful, but no matter how powerful you are only one person." However, while speaking, outside the window, a large number of fighters and tank troops are attacking here, and the one driving a fighter, the leader, is none other than the female warrior Hermione, who just disappeared. Of course she will not be killed. After she disappeared, looking at the new system options, she decided to bring a large force to fight a group battle. Fighting alone, 1 against 5, is certainly very exciting, but fighting a group battle is a more intense battle. This battle completely turned Hydra from a ground force into an organization that can only hide underground. Boom boom boom. Hermione first pressed the button for the fighter to launch missiles, and 2 missiles accurately hit the room where Red Skull and Steve Rogers were communicating. Steve Rogers seemed to be able to see the figure of the female warrior wearing a white mask in the flying fighter. It turned out to be her. Red Skull, you are finished. The situation reversed in an instant, and the Hydra's last base was surrounded by troops on all sides. This place has been surrounded, and it is only a matter of time before it is completely defeated. I didn't lose. I will kill you. After all, the Red Skull is a battle-hardened existence. He took out a high-tech weapon and pointed it at Steve Rogers' head. He wanted to see Steve Rogers' head blown up with his own eyes, and then his body fell in a pool of blood. However, at this critical moment, in front of Hermione, who was still driving a fighter jet, the system options immediately popped up. Option 1. Immediately rescue Steve Rogers, and complete the task to reward basic attributes +1. Option 2. Do not take action, let the Red Skull shoot, and see if Steve Rogers' head is harder or his new weapon is harder. Complete the task to reward basic attributes +1. Option 3. Finish and sprinkle flowers, and start looking for a new superhero to replace Captain America. Complete the task to reward basic attributes +1. It's really rare that the rewards for the three options are finally fair, and they are all the same. In this way, Hermione has no reason to choose other tasks because of interests. Instead, it is based on her personal preferences. Hermione barely thought about it. Captain America needed a shield. With a shield, Captain America's defense was almost full immediately. Without a shield, he naturally couldn't do it. So, Hermione, who was still in midair, threw Steve Rogers' shield directly, bang, breaking the hard glass. The shield that Hermione had stolen back when Steve Rogers was captured flew over immediately. Boom. Red Skull still shot. He wanted to kill this confidant. Only if Steve Rogers died, they, Hydra, would have a chance to make a comeback, otherwise, it would be too difficult. However, Red Skull never dreamed that his weapon attack would hit the shield thrown by Hermione. The shield was made of sound-absorbing steel and was extremely hard. Even if Red Skull was holding a high-tech weapon at the moment, he could not break the shield. On the contrary, when Steve Rogers saw this shield that had fought with him on the battlefield, he was immediately overjoyed. "Old friend, you're here." Steve Rogers quickly broke free from his restraints, grabbed the shield, and charged like a bull, knocking the Red Skull out with one blow. Boom. The terrifying force directly made the Red Skull hit the steel wall behind him like a cannonball, and the steel plate was dented. When the Red Skull fell, he vomited blood. "Damn it, I can't die here, I still have a great cause to complete." The Red Skull's eyes flashed with his last madness. He threw out his weapons and quickly began to flee. The last base of Hydra was in flames in the artillery fire. This battle will completely wipe out the entire ground forces of Hydra. The Red Skull who escaped, his heart was bleeding. This is how much he has worked hard for many years. In an instant, it's all gone. However, he still has a backup. He developed a heavyweight weapon, similar to a nuclear bomb, on a super-large giant plane. As long as he drops this terrifying bomb over a large city where humans live, all human beings on the earth will be terrified and understand the horror of their Hydra. Then, the Red Skull will quickly gather more crazy believers to join him. Hydra will revive again and become even more powerful. This is a desperate plan. This time it can only succeed, not fail. Boom. The fighter plane driven by Hermione blew up in the Hydra's arsenal. For a while, the explosion was earth-shaking, and the billowing flames almost burnt everything around. However, the driver, the female warrior Hermione, was able to remain intact. Because she held the portkey in her hand, she could travel through time and space at will at the critical moment. There were wars everywhere, and Steve Rogers was also bombed and lost his sense of direction. At this moment, the female warrior Hermione appeared magically. Steve Rogers was just surprised and wanted to say something. For example, "It turns out that you are really not dead. Did you bring the army outside? Thank you for your help just now." A strong man who could accurately throw a shield to save Steve Rogers' life at such a long distance. Except Hermione, God, ordinary people could not do it at all. However, Hermione spoke first. "The Red Skull went over there, let's catch up quickly." However, Hermione also continued in a very humane way, "But, as a god, I can reveal something to you in advance. If you don't chase him, the Red Skull's conspiracy may succeed, but you yourself will be fine. If you continue to chase him, you can be a superhero, stop the Red Skull's conspiracy, and save most of the human race. However, you may have to pay the price of your life. Pay with your life. In the battle, in the heat of the blood, you may forget the preciousness of life in a moment of heat. But at this moment, this God revealed it in advance. Sacrifice himself and save thousands of humans. This is a real superhero." Steve Rogers didn't think too much, nor did he answer. He expressed it with action. He picked up the shield and went in the direction where the Red Skull fled. Hermione seemed to have guessed the answer a long time ago, but she still had to say it. Only in this way would she feel better. After all, she could actually choose an answer other than the system task. However, for the integrity of the entire Marvel story, Steve Rogers had to be sacrificed for a short time at this moment. Chapter 606. The end of Captain America's story. In addition, this was his own choice. although according to his character, he had no choice. Red Skull drove the superplane, ready to implement his final earth-shattering conspiracy. He was crazy inside, and his behavior was crazy, but soon he found that the almost invincible Captain America Steve Rogers appeared again. Damn, tough guy. Red Skull was not stupid. After so many things, he had felt that Steve Rogers was his lifelong rival and he had to kill him, otherwise, he would keep pestering him for a long time. But now, Red Skull had no time to pay attention to him. He increased the horsepower and just wanted to make the superplane fly as soon as possible. Only in this way, the land super soldier Steve Rogers could not do anything to him in the air. Just when Red Skull was about to succeed, a military vehicle drove very fast. The driver was Hermione wearing a mask, and the person sitting in the car was Steve Rogers. The car was naturally not as fast as the plane, but it was still able to catch up before the plane took off. Even Hermione the witch could use advanced magic to add a spell to the car, and it would not be difficult for the car to fly. However, Hermione did not want to be too conspicuous, so she stepped on the accelerator to the bottom, and she could catch up with the car using the principles of physics. "We're here," Hermione just reminded him, and Steve Rogers jumped directly onto the plane with his shield on his back. Boom. Because there was a cliff in front, it was too late to brake at this time. The Red Skull's special-shaped plane took off successfully, and the car driven by Hermione also successfully fell off the cliff. Others would definitely think that Hermione's driver would not survive, but Steve Rogers knew that this difficulty would not be difficult for God. She must have a way, so Steve Rogers did not worry too much. The plane was particularly huge, and the Red Skull was so angry that his teeth itched. There was no other way. At this time, there was no point in looking for Steve Rogers all over the plane. Wait for that guy to come to him. At this time, the most important thing was to quickly find a large city with a dense population. The Red Skull wanted to do something big. Steve Rogers already knew about the Red Skull's plot. With the female warrior Hermione around, it would be hard for him not to know. To the Red Skull's disappointment, Steve Rogers did not go to fight with the Red Skull first. Instead, he quickly went to find the weapons depot on the superplane. Don't mention it. Steve Rogers really found it. There are the most Hydra personnel defending here. Steve Rogers started fighting, and the enemy's weapons attacks had no effect on Captain America's shield, but the enemy couldn't withstand Steve Rogers' attack. He found terrifying weapons, including several super bombs, one of which was enough to destroy a super city. Through the vents below, Steve Rogers found that the plane had flown to the sea. That's right. The best destination for this kind of weapon is the sea. The sea is vast, and only the sea can accommodate it. The shield made of sound-absorbing steel breaks the steel plate, and high-level bombs fall down one by one. If the fish in the sea could speak human language, they would definitely shout, "Thank you for the super rocket, my friend 666." Red Skull felt something, and his face was distorted by surprise and anger. His blood-red face was hideous and terrifying. His horrific plan was once again stopped by Captain America Steve Rogers. Even Steve Rogers alone was enough to destroy half of Red Skull's Hydra. Give up. Steve Rogers finally came to Red Skull's side. Red Skull looked up to the sky and howled, then laughed. "Steve Rogers, I have long expected this day to come. Do you think I have no backup plan?" Even though Red Skull was at the end of his rope, he still looked like he was sure of victory. Seeing this, Steve Rogers became nervous. Is there any evil plan that he hasn't discovered? It shouldn't be possible. Hermione is a god. She said that this superplane is Red Skull's last struggle. What could it be? Steve Rogers began to reason. He was not a detective, but with a hint from Goddess Hermione, Steve Rogers soon thought of something. Goddess Hermione said that he might sacrifice his life in this action, but so far, Steve Rogers has not encountered enough danger to bring death. Looking at the crazy eyes of the Red Skull, Steve Rogers suddenly thought of something. Madman, it's the cosmic cube. Yes, although Steve Rogers destroyed many terrible bombs and fell into the sea, but the most fundamental mysterious power of the Red Skull, the cosmic cube, has not been found. This thing, if it explodes with terrifying power, it is still very easy to destroy a super city with a population of tens of millions. In other words, the current superplane is a detonator, and the cosmic cube is the explosive. Where is the cosmic cube? The Red Skull was a little surprised. How did this guy guess it? Is there a reference answer on his face? Do you think I might tell you? Steve Rogers stopped talking nonsense. Time is precious. Then I'll beat you until you tell me. Steve Rogers took action. He was very fast, and the power of his muscles was terrifying. Red Skull had been prepared for a long time. He was also looking forward to a big fight with Steve Rogers. Boom. The two attacks collided. Steve Rogers took 2 steps back, while Red Skull took 3 steps back. In terms of physical fitness, Red Skull was still not as good as Steve Rogers. Come again. Red Skull was not a person who gave up easily. He continued to attack at a fast speed. If it was an ordinary person's body, this level of fighting would have been physically exhausted. Both of them had super soldier serum in their bodies. Although they were seriously injured, they recovered quickly. Boom. Even the steel plates in the cabin were penetrated. Finally, a seemingly ordinary machine was cracked, revealing the dazzling special energy aura inside. Damn it. Red Skull's face changed drastically. So it's here, finally found it. The cosmic cube. Steve Rogers smashed the machine with his shield. Sparks flew everywhere. This machine was invented by the evil Dr. Arnim Zola, and it can be used to extract the energy in the cosmic cube. In fact, the power source of this superplane is also the cosmic cube. You can't take it away. Red Skull rushed to stop it. At this time, he tried his best. Because the power source of the superplane was destroyed, the plane began to tilt suddenly, and Steve Rogers was thrown away accidentally. Red Skull was overjoyed. God is still on my side. Red Skull ignored Steve Rogers and quickly reached out for the cosmic cube. As long as Red Skull still has this super treasure, it is only a matter of time for him to make a comeback. However, what Red Skull could not have imagined was that his luck had run out and he had no good luck. The cosmic cube, which he had used for so many years, finally lost his temper. In fact, it was this machine that was hit by Captain America and malfunctioned. The ultimate power of the cosmic cube was successfully activated. So, the moment the Red Skull wanted to touch the cosmic cube, he was immediately enveloped by a terrifying ball of light. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 607, The Avengers begins. The energy in the light ball is not warm, but tearing and burning pain. Ah, Red Skull roared. He could see that in the light ball, his body was split little by little, turning into particles and powder. Then, with the last light of the cosmic cube, it disappeared directly on the superplane. Captain America Steve Rogers was also stunned. He did not expect that the Red Skull, who had committed evil all his life, would leave the world in this way. Cosmic cube. The cosmic cube, which had lost its luster, returned to its original square shape. The light was dim, and Steve Rogers wanted to take it back. This thing is too mysterious and must not fall into the hands of bad people again. But the cosmic cube did not seem to like Captain America Steve Rogers. Although the light of the cosmic cube was dim, the temperature was extremely terrifying, and it could even melt the steel on the plane. From the cabin, the steel plates melted layer by layer, and finally fell into the sea in a straight line. Sure enough, it was still the tolerance of the sea that finally bore everything. Steve Rogers didn't think it was a pity. Perhaps sinking into the sea was the final destination of such a thing. Steve Rogers was now going to start thinking about new problems. This superplane was already riddled with holes. Not only was there air leaking everywhere, but the most terrifying thing was that without the cosmic cube, this superplane also lost its last power source. The plane shook violently, and cold air poured in. Without power, the superplane could only fall. The design of the plane was unique. This process was not a straight line, but a glide. It seems that God is God. Steve Rogers knew that he was going to die with this superplane. At the last moment of his life, he wanted to ask Hermione, God, whether he was qualified as a superhero, but he finally dialed the radio station that communicated with the ground. Finally, with the help of the communicator, Captain America contacted the beautiful Agent Peggy Carter. "I still owe you a dance." Steve Rogers had a lot more to say, but time did not allow it. Boom. The giant plane fell directly on the vast snow, and there was no one around. "Steve." The beautiful agent finally heard Steve Rogers' voice, and she also shed sad tears. She had seen many excellent men in her life, but the only one she was moved by was Steve Rogers. However, because of the war, the two had no time and no opportunity to express their feelings to each other. Even when Steve Rogers promised to invite the beautiful Agent Peggy Carter to dance, he failed to do it. The entire communication room was silent. Steve Rogers, who was once a stage clown, has now become a superhero who saves hundreds of millions of people. He did it. Miss Hermione Granger was in the crowd. She came to the communication room, of course, not to see the beautiful Agent Peggy Carter cry. She was doing the system option task and came here to punch in. "Congratulations on completing the task. Reward basic attribute +1. After completing the task recently, Hermione still added points to the Fighting Spirit inscription attribute. The total points are now, Fighting Spirit +41, Alchemy +52. After both of these points break through to 100 points, Hermione will consider changing the attribute inscriptions to upgrade. For now, the goal is still 100. She feels that if the attribute points have not broken through to 100, the perception is still not very obvious. When it reaches 100, it feels very obvious. The most intuitive feeling is like this: I could eat a bowl of rice and a chicken leg before, but I couldn't eat anymore. But after the attribute points break through 100, I can eat 2 bowls of rice and 2 chicken legs. This improvement is of course very obvious. After completing the clock-in task, Hermione continued to wear the white mask. She doesn't like to be invisible now, which makes her feel that she has no sense of participation. Wearing a white mask and emitting some magical power, others can't recognize her. Appearing at the scene of the incident openly, this kind of feeling of being able to complete the system option task and have a sense of participation is naturally very obvious. The story will also become much more interesting. Hermione took out the portkey. Being so cautious, she had naturally placed the space teleporter on that special plane. Time and space traveled instantly. Hermione came to the snow-covered ship. Steve Rogers was frozen at the moment. Hermione went up to check to make sure that his body would not rot due to bacterial invasion. Then she sighed and left. After walking out, the cold outside was enough to freeze ordinary people into ice sculptures. But Hermione was able to resist this cold perfectly. On the snowy ground where no one had stepped, she left her own footprints. At this time, Hermione seemed to have picked up something. She looked back and found that she had walked a very long distance without realizing it. Under the snow, she could no longer see the place where Steve Rogers fell with the giant plane. She squatted down and picked up the things under her feet. It was strange that this time it was no longer gold and silver jewelry. It was a shovel. When Hermione looked at it curiously, suddenly a very terrible time force was generated on the shovel. Everything around, space, time, and everything were flowing rapidly. In a flash, it was 70 years later. Awesome. Hermione was still holding the shovel, and could only make such complaints. Not far away, an expedition team asked their colleagues, "Have you seen my shovel?" It turned out that the shovel left behind by the expedition team 70 years ago was picked up by Hermione 70 years ago, so Hermione was instantly brought to 70 years later. Hermione changed and put on the clothes of the expedition team. She took a look at the system pop-up window in front of her. Option 1. Follow the expedition team, dig out Steve Rogers who was buried here 70 years ago, and start a new story of the Avengers. Complete the task to reward basic attributes +1. Option 2. Deliberately lead this expedition team away, so that Steve Rogers will continue to be buried deep in the snow. Complete the task to reward exclusive attributes. Villain, +1. Option 3. It's too cold here. I want to find a place with spring flowers blooming and drink a cup of hand-warming milk tea. Complete the mission and you will be rewarded with the exclusive attribute, Leisure +1. These are three very interesting options. Compared to enjoying life leisurely, Hermione thinks option 2 is more interesting. If she deliberately leads this expedition away, will Steve Rogers continue to be buried in the snow? Perhaps the next time he is discovered, it may be the story of Thanos invading the Earth. It is even possible that he will never have a chance to come out in his lifetime. However, Hermione will certainly not do this. She is a law-abiding person. Because it is easier to live this way, she came to the center of the expedition and said, "Just now, I found something over there, you guys come with me." Under the leadership of Hermione, this expedition discovered the special plane that had been frozen for 70 years in advance. This expedition immediately reported it, and the well-informed S.H.I.E.L.D. quickly sent people to come. The person who came was a familiar face, Agent Phil Coulson, who had appeared in the stories of Iron Man and Thor. S.H.I.E.L.D. stepped in and quickly took control of the area. As the excavation progressed, the strange giant plane that Hydra had flown 70 years ago finally emerged from the depths of the snow. Even though it was riddled with holes, it was still brand new in the depths of the snow. Be careful when you go in. There may be biological weapons and explosives inside, Agent Phil Coulson warned. Chapter 608. Hermione Granger of SHIELD. Phil Coulson's worry was not without reason. After all, this was something left over from the war. Who knows what dangers might be inside? It's better to be safe than sorry. Hermione had a mission to accomplish, so she was the first to enter. She knew whether there was any danger on the spaceship that crashed here 70 years ago. Soon, under Hermione's guidance, they found Steve Rogers frozen in ice. When Agent Phil Coulson saw the familiar S.H.I.E.L.D., he was already stunned. Could this be? Captain America had been missing for so long, and it was determined that he had been buried in the sea. No one would have thought that he would be frozen in this icy land for so many years. Unlike frozen meat, Steve Rogers' body was well preserved because of Miss Hermione's care 70 years ago. Be careful. Be slow when you lift it. Agent Phil Coulson was afraid that if they were not careful, Steve Rogers would fall to the ground and then break into pieces. If that happened, the consequences would be too horrible. With Ms. Hermione here, what Agent Phil Coulson is worried about is impossible to happen. When the frozen Steve Rogers was transported to SHIELD by plane, he was thawed with the help of today's advanced equipment. If it were an ordinary person, even if he was thawed, he would have been dead. But Steve Rogers is different. The cells in his body are still active, far beyond ordinary people. In the original play, in order to make Steve Rogers wake up without feeling a strong sense of separation from this new world, SHIELD didn't know who came up with the idea of creating a Truman Show to make Steve Rogers think he was still 70 years ago. But here, because Miss Hermione is here, the situation has completely changed in essence. Miss Hermione suggested that Steve Rogers should be told everything clearly, without hiding anything. And don't be too smart. Agent Phil Coulson of SHIELD and Commander Nick Fury both agree with Hermione Granger's point of view. When the first rays of sunlight in the morning shone into the ward, a brilliant halo appeared on Hermione's graceful figure. Steve Rogers woke up. His eyes still needed to adjust, but he recognized Miss Hermione at a glance. The human brain is like an electronic component. It is easy to break down, especially for people who wake up from freezing. But obviously Steve Rogers is not one of them. The super soldier serum changed not only his body, but also his brain. There is no problem with the storage area and cognitive area of Steve Rogers' brain. Am I in heaven? Steve Rogers felt that he had fought for peace all his life, and he should go to heaven after death. Hermione said, "No, I'm still on Earth." Steve Rogers was silent. He closed his eyes, and seemed to start recalling everything that happened before he fell asleep. Finally, he thought of it. "God, Hermione, you saved me." Hermione did not object. "Not entirely. This is S.H.I.E.L.D., a special department that specializes in handling various special events. And now it's 70 years later. S.H.I.E.L.D. brought you back from the ice and snow and thawed you successfully." 70 years? Steve Rogers was undoubtedly stunned when he heard this answer. He looked at Hermione in disbelief. He asked in the most surprised voice, 70 years later, how is this possible? At this time, Nick Fury, the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Phil Coulson, a senior agent, came in. There was also Black Widow, but Black Widow looked at Hermione curiously. In S.H.I.E.L.D., such a powerful female agent, Black Widow didn't have much impression of Hermione. However, under the influence of advanced magic, she didn't doubt too much. Captain America, Steve Rogers, 70 years later, you are a superhero. Welcome to the world. 70 years later. Looking at this group of strangers, Steve Rogers didn't completely believe what they said. And when they walked out of the S.H.I.E.L.D. base and went to the new world of high-rise buildings, Steve Rogers finally began to believe it. There was no such prosperous scene 70 years ago. Moreover, people's faces were mostly filled with a calm attitude of living in a peaceful era. Unlike 70 years ago, the streets were full of information about war. Steve Rogers couldn't calm down for a long time, until Nick Fury and Phil Coulson left. Black Widow also went to perform a new mission, leaving only Miss Hermione to continue to solve Steve Rogers' doubts. The changes in 70 years are still too big, and Hermione needs to explain it to him well. And after Commander Nick Fury left Steve Rogers, he had something very important to do. This matter is a long time ago, dating back more than 70 years ago. At that time, Hydra used the cosmic cube to study new weapons, very scary weapons, but Hermione looked down on them and felt that they were useless. However, when Iron Man's father was still alive, S.H.I.E.L.D. did not find the place where Steve Rogers was frozen, but discovered the cosmic cube from the depths of the sea, and brought it back to S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. knew the horror of this thing at the beginning, but never conducted any research. They simply collected and guarded it to prevent bad guys from getting it. However, starting from the story of Thor, Earth has become more and more dangerous. Not only do we have local superpowers, but we also have to face the threat of aliens. At that time, Thor's fighting power really scared the people of S.H.I.E.L.D. Prepare for a rainy day. If aliens invade the Earth one day, the current thermal weapons may not be able to resist. Only then did they decide to secretly build an experimental base for studying the cosmic cube according to the instructions of the top leaders. A few days after Steve Rogers was thawed from the ice, there has finally been progress in the research on the cosmic cube. Scientists have also invented a powerful weapon that can activate the energy in the cosmic cube. At this critical moment, Miss Hermione also immediately received the system option task prompt. Option 1. Quickly rush to the S.H.I.E.L.D. Cosmic Cube Research Laboratory and punch in. Completing the task will reward basic attributes +1. Option 2. Prevent the Cosmic Cube from being activated and let S.H.I.E.L.D. start to terminate the research. Complete the task and get the exclusive attribute, Change, +1. Option 3. Don't join in the fun. Find a restaurant and have a cup of coffee quietly. Complete the task and get the exclusive attribute, Leisure, +1. Task 1 and Task 3 are not very difficult, so Hermione naturally chooses the simple one. Task 3 is relatively simple, but the reward is also simple. Let's do option 1, just sign in and punch in, which is also simple and the reward is generous. This secret base of S.H.I.E.L.D. is rarely known to outsiders, but Hermione is not an outsider. Once the portkey is used, Hermione will directly travel to the secret laboratory below. Scientists began to do the final test. In the middle of the huge machine is the shining cosmic cube. Every time Hermione saw this treasure, she wanted to get it, but she finally held back. This is an important plot prop. It is easy for her to steal it, but it is difficult for the plot to be changed so smoothly. Congratulations on completing option 1 task. Reward basic attribute +1. Chapter 609. The Cosmic Cube is obtained by Loki. Being able to restrain one's desire is also a very special ability. After all, the treasure is right in front of her. Hermione was able to remain indifferent because she believed that as long as she successfully completed a series of tasks, she would get what she deserved. If she rashly tried to get it before the time was right, the final result would not be perfect. Hermione is such a smart person, so she naturally understands some important routines. She just watched quietly on the side, wearing a white mask, and she did not arouse the suspicion of everyone. Agent Phil Coulson even nodded as if to greet Hermione. Nick Fury, as the commander of SHIELD, has become a legend of SHIELD in his mortal body. At this moment, he looked at it seriously, hoping that this group of scientists could research something. However, the development of the story that followed was completely beyond his expectations. The cosmic cube was indeed successfully activated, emitting a dazzling light and a powerful energy beam that made people fascinated. But because of this, Loki, the evil god in the universe, smelled the smell and immediately came with the scepter. In S.H.I.E.L.D., everyone except Miss Hermione was very surprised. They didn't understand how a character could be summoned after the cosmic cube was activated. Before they could greet each other, Loki took the lead. He raised the special crescent-shaped wand in his hand and attacked a nearby scientist with a beam of light. With a bang, the scientist was knocked away on the spot. Direct death. Loki showed a cruel smile at the corner of his mouth. In his eyes, humans on Earth were no different from ants. He would kill anyone he wanted to kill. Speaking of Loki, he also has a lot of stories. He was once the second prince of Asgard and wanted to obtain the throne. He planned to frame Thor and was demoted to the human world, and successfully sat on the throne for a while. But later, with the secret help of Hermione the Savior, he defeated him together with Thor, and Loki fell into the turbulence of time and space in the final decisive battle. After that, he met an extremely important mysterious person in exile. The original drama did not reveal it in advance, but here, Miss Hermione knows that the mysterious person who helped Loki is Thanos. Thanos gave Loki the peculiar-shaped scepter with a Mind Stone inlaid on it. That is, the power of this scepter is equivalent to the cosmic cube. Loki came with a mission this time. With Thanos' support, he was naturally very arrogant. Fight back. Seeing Loki killing people without mercy, Commander Nick Fury immediately reacted and took out his pistol to fight back. Loki was not panicked. He knew magic and it was difficult for bullets to hit him. However, there was an agent in SHIELD, Hawkeye, whose archery skills were very good and even more accurate than bullets. He almost shot Loki. Loki became interested in this person. With a magic teleportation, Loki came in front of Hawkeye and did not wait for Hawkeye to exclaim and retreat. He was hit in the heart at close range by Loki using the scepter with the Mind Stone in his hand. Loki's magic was not as good as Ms. Hermione's, but he had the blessing of the Mind Stone. In terms of advanced magic such as controlling people's minds, he is no less skilled than the witch Hermione. The power of the Mind Stone immediately made Hawkeye's eyes become chaotic, like a controlled puppet, and completely obeyed Loki's command. That's awesome. The scepter of the Mind Stone. After seeing it, Hermione also wanted to get it. Her advanced magic can also affect other people's minds and thoughts, but if she also has this Mind Stone, wouldn't it be even more perfect? Hawkeye, who was controlled by Loki, began to fight back. His archery skills were terrifying, and people from S.H.I.E.L.D. were constantly shot and killed. Hermione looked at the new system option task pop-up window in front of her. Option 1. Take action to get rid of Hawkeye. The controlled S.H.I.E.L.D. agent deserves to die and has no value to live. Complete the task to reward the exclusive attribute, arbitrary, +1. Option 2. Kill Loki, and let the Avengers movie story have to change the villain before it even begins. Complete the task to reward the exclusive attribute, erasure, +1. Option 3. Pull out a pistol to fight back, pretending to be an ordinary agent. Complete the task and get a reward of +1 basic attribute. The only thing that was not allowed was Hermione to use the power of magic to rescue Hawkeye. Even though Hawkeye was controlled by the wand of the Mind Stone, Hermione was confident that she could restore him to normal through advanced magic. Loki was extremely cunning, and it was not easy to kill him completely. Besides, if he died, Thanos would have to find another villain to invade the Earth, which would be so troublesome. It was him. Hermione chose to pull out her pistol to fight back. Although it was just a show, Hermione's shooting skills were also very good. Hawkeye was controlled, and his archery skills were more powerful than bullets in the original drama. But here, Miss Hermione was at most playing low-key. Every time she fired a bullet, Hawkeye's arrows would be knocked away. Interesting. Loki found another great person from SHIELD, and he immediately cast magic and teleported in front of Hermione. Just when he was about to take out the scepter with the Mind Stone to control Hermione and make her work like Hawkeye, Hermione suddenly raised her double guns. Bang, bang, 2 shots hit Loki at close range. Loki's skin was thick and tough, so he didn't die after being shot, but his skin was scratched and bleeding. I actually suffered a loss. What kind of shooting skill is that? Loki thought he was careless and didn't think much about it. Miss Hermione was laughing secretly, but I was just showing mercy and saving your life. If Hermione enchanted the bullet, Loki would probably be dead. Just now she felt the power of the Mind Stone at close range. It was indeed very powerful, but Loki's energy was limited and he couldn't fully exert the power of the scepter. Otherwise, Hermione might really be controlled and turned into a puppet like Hawkeye. However, with Loki's current ability, even if Hermione stood still and let him exert the power of the Mind Stone, he couldn't do anything to the witch Hermione. The two people's understanding of the field of magic was not at the same level, and if the scepter with the Mind Stone fell into Hermione's hands, she could exert several times the strength of Loki. If Hermione is a villain, she can use the Mind Stone to instantly control everyone on the scene. Take away the cosmic cube. Loki realized that S.H.I.E.L.D. is also a place where hidden dragons and crouching tigers are hidden. He must not be careless and must act according to the plan. Take away the cosmic cube first, and then do other things. He is not a warrior, and he needs to fight here. Hawkeye is completely controlled by Loki. Loki is responsible for attracting the firepower of S.H.I.E.L.D. Hawkeye successfully steals the cosmic cube. Then, Loki waved his wand again, and the power of the Mind Stone controlled several drivers to drive for him. It seemed that Loki was about to take Hawkeye and the cosmic cube away from here. Hermione raised her gun again and fired a shot, and the bullet hit Loki's leg accurately. Loki cried out in pain. He really wanted to turn around and kill the person who fired the gun, but he always felt that the female agent wearing a white mask was a bit weird, so it was better to leave here quickly, otherwise, it would be too tragic to die before the mission was accomplished. Hermione put down the pistol and did not continue to chase. The secret base of S.H.I.E.L.D. just exploded due to the energy of the cosmic cube, causing the entire base to explode and begin to collapse. Let's go. Commander Nick Fury didn't care about chasing Loki, who stole the cosmic cube. At this time, he began to organize his men to take the surviving scientists and quickly escape from here. Boom. Chapter 610 Black Widow Rampage. The speed of the collapse of this base was beyond imagination. From the ground, it was a huge pit. The research results of S.H.I.E.L.D. on the cosmic cube over the years were completely destroyed, just like Hydra back then. Hermione naturally escaped at the first time. Of course, with her current ability, even if she was buried in it, there would be no problem at all. The next story is going to be interesting. This sentence sounds like the tone of a villain, but it was indeed said by Hermione at this moment, because Hermione has been in Marvel for a long time and has witnessed the rise of many superheroes. Now, she did not fail to kill Loki, because Loki is alive. Those Marvel superheroes have a common reason and opportunity to fight Loki together. Therefore, the next story must be very exciting. Hermione's system is also super powerful, and the option task pair framework pops up immediately. Hermione did not delay for long, and immediately sat on her flying broom and flew into the sky. The location of the new task is on Black Widow's side, and it has not been long since Black Widow met Hermione last time. In fact, in the three-dimensional world, Black Widow's figure and appearance are already good. Unfortunately, Hermione has seen beauties in the first dimension, and there is harm when there is comparison, so Hermione doesn't have any special thoughts about Black Widow, and they can be comrades or friends. Black Widow is on a mission. As a beautiful spy, her ability is to obtain intelligence. At this moment, in an abandoned factory, there are violent elements. Black Widow was tied up on a chair, and her pitiful appearance successfully won the arrogant laughter of several rough men in front of her. They looked at Black Widow's sexy figure, teased unscrupulously, and looked like they had won. However, when Black Widow received a call from Agent Phil Coulson, the whole person went berserk in an instant. What? Hawkeye is controlled by aliens? In the movie, The relationship between several superheroes is particularly chaotic. Among them is Black Widow and Hawkeye. The two are colleagues and have a life-saving relationship. At the same time, it seems that there are some other things mixed in. Anyway, when Black Widow heard that an alien holding a scepter came to the base where S.H.I.E.L.D. was researching the Cosmic Cube, controlled Hawkeye, shot and killed many S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and stole the Cosmic Cube and fled, Black Widow's temper came up. Damn it. What? This group of burly men didn't notice that there was an earphone next to Black Widow's ear at all. They thought that Black Widow was talking to them. At this moment, they were all unhappy and said, "Your life is in our hands. We make you live a life worse than death. You still dare to say to us that you should die?" They thought that Black Widow was crazy. If she wasn't a little pretty, they would have shot her to death. However, this perverted man didn't intend to let Black Widow go back alive. They took out the cruel tools of torture and planned to pry open Black Widow's mouth and pull out her teeth one by one. They are still very good at torturing people. In front of Ms. Hermione, who had already arrived, a system option box popped up. Option 1. Black Widow is angry. The bad guys are in danger. Ask to help the bad guys kill Black Widow. Complete the task to reward exclusive attribute, villain, +1. Option 2. I just come to punch in and sign in to watch the show. It is my principle not to take action. Complete the task to reward basic attribute +1. Option 3. Let's detonate a nuclear warhead and let this place be completely destroyed. Complete the task to reward 2 nuclear warheads. It's interesting, coming all the way here, and actually asking to help the bad guys kill Black Widow. Hermione thinks this option is much more interesting than directly detonating a nuclear warhead, because nuclear warheads are different from missile bombs. The radiation is too harmful. Since Hermione obtained it, she has never used it once, and she will not use it easily unless there are special circumstances in the future. The harm is too great. Be cautious. So the remaining option 2 is the simplest and most rewarding option. Bang. Black Widow sneered. I wanted to get more information, but now I'm not in the mood to play with you guys. Play? The bad guy laughed. Did I hear you right? This woman is tied up. And she actually said, is she playing with us? He took out a pistol and pointed it at Black Widow's forehead, saying viciously, woman, believe it or not, I will shoot you to death. However, most villains die because of talking too much. While talking, Black Widow moved. Even though she was tied up on a chair, her athletic ability was beyond ordinary people. She and the chair instantly flew into the air and hit the bad guy holding the pistol. The remaining 2 bad guys were shocked. They didn't expect that Black Widow could do what she said. She can really resist. It was said that it was too late. Bang bang. Gunshots. The bad guy accomplice fired, but Black Widow, with her flexible skills, not only dodged, but also smashed the chair and broke free in an instant. Use hands and feet together. Close combat. Ah! The bad guy screamed, and the wrist that had just held the gun was broken by Black Widow, making a crackling sound of bones breaking. Black Widow was flexible and knocked down all the bad guys in no time. Ms. Hermione, who was watching the show on the side, couldn't help but admire her. In fact, she still envied Black Widow's grappling skills that were similar to judo. However, she didn't learn this because she didn't want to get too close to men, because this kind of judo requires entanglement with the enemy's body, using the twisting force of the body and inertia to quickly solve the enemy. Hermione doesn't like to fight so closely with the enemy's body during the fight. So, she shouldn't fight like Black Widow. Hermione chose very direct fist and foot kung fu. In addition to attacking, she would not let the enemy get close to her body at all. After the fight, Black Widow continued to communicate with Agent Phil Coulson through the headset. When Agent Phil Coulson heard the sound of fighting, he knew that the fight on Black Widow's side should have ended. I'll be back right away. Hawkeye was controlled by aliens, and this incident had a great impact on Black Widow. Black Widow acted quickly and turned away. She didn't even know that there was a Miss Hermione watching the fun here. Black Widow had just left, and the system in front of Hermione gave a new option task. Hermione took a look and pulled out her pistol without hesitation, aiming at the 3 bad guys who had just been knocked down by Black Widow. Bang, bang, bang. 3 shots. Every shot hit the head. Black Widow is a spy. Only when the enemy is alive can she get more intelligence. So unless it is a special case, Black Widow will not kill people easily. So including the 3 bad guys just now. After Black Widow left, other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents would naturally come to finish it off. However, Hermione chose the option of killing to silence them. She shot and killed the 3 bad guys directly. In Hermione's opinion, the behavior of the 3 people just now really made it difficult for people to have a good impression. She chose to kill the 3 directly and put an end to it. For Hermione now, shooting a bad guy is no different from killing a fly with a fly swatter, except that it feels a bit disgusting. Chapter 611 Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk and Black Widow reunite. Black Widow returned to S.H.I.E.L.D., and after quickly understanding the situation, she made a new plan with Commander Nick Fury. Because this is the first time that the Earth has been invaded by aliens in the Marvel world, and this Loki is so blatant to steal the Cosmic Cube, the alien Loki will definitely take further action. So the power of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not enough at present. It is necessary to start the plan that Nick Fury has been preparing for a long time. The Avengers plan. Integrate the world's super elites into one organization. Let them unite and work together to resist the enemy. Commander Nick Fury took out a secret file, handed it to Black Widow and said, "I think you need to recruit this super soldier." Black Widow opened the file and saw that its danger level was the highest SSS level. This is a super strong man who can resist an army by himself. I understand. Black Widow understands the importance of this person to the Avengers. He is a trump card. In the Marvel world, few men can resist the temptation of Black Widow. It is much more effective for S.H.I.E.L.D. to send women than to send men. After Black Widow left, Commander Nick Fury was not idle either, and immediately went to Captain America Steve Rogers. A person who woke up from being frozen for 70 years is now receiving rehabilitation training inside S.H.I.E.L.D., and Captain America Steve Rogers' rehabilitation training is also very unique. Ordinary people may need to exercise walking, exercise fingers, and muscle recovery, but Captain America Steve Rogers is hitting sandbags, and each punch is heavier than the last. During this time, he has been adapting to the new world. In just 70 years, he is a little behind the times. At the same time, he recalled the past in his mind, with regrets and pain, but his beliefs have not changed. Even though most places on the earth are peaceful now, he will not give up strengthening himself. When necessary, he will fight again without hesitation. This may be the only will for him, an anti-cold man, to survive. Boom. Captain America Steve Rogers' fighting power is still very fierce, and he punches through a sandbag with one punch. And on the ground next to him, there are more than a dozen sandbags. At this time, Nick Fury, the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., came over. His one eye was very distinctive, just like Hermione always wearing a white mask. Captain America did not turn around to say hello, but continued to train hard. Nick Fury was also shocked when he saw Steve Rogers' record. Steve Rogers' physical fitness may have reached the limit of human beings. As for the Hulk, he has mutated and is no longer human. Last night, aliens claimed to be from the God Realm, invaded our S.H.I.E.L.D. laboratory and stole the important dangerous energy Cosmic Cube, and used a magic we did not know to control our top agent Hawkeye. Aliens? God Realm? Magic? These words may only be clips in movies and TV series for ordinary people, but Captain America Steve Rogers was able to wake up from 70% freezing, even if he heard that aliens invaded the Earth, which was indeed surprising, but Steve Rogers still chose to believe it. Commander Nick Fury continued, "I plan to form the Avengers to fight against the alien invasion together." Avengers? Steve Rogers finally stopped hitting the sandbag. He looked back at Commander Nick Fury and asked, "Besides me, who else?" Commander Nick Fury didn't expect Captain America to be so cooperative. He said happily, "Please come to our S.H.I.E.L.D. conference room to discuss in detail." Steve Rogers said, "I don't have complete trust in your S.H.I.E.L.D. organization at the moment. I'm taking action just to protect peace. If there is an alien invasion, I will stand up without hesitation. This is the only value that allows him to survive after his recovery." Nick Fury understood. Otherwise he wouldn't have specially organized an Avengers. Wouldn't it be better to just let Iron Man, Steve Rogers, the Hulk and others join S.H.I.E.L.D.? The nature of the Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D. is different. On Iron Man's side, Miss Hermione received a system option task and came faster than the people from S.H.I.E.L.D. However, this time she still chose the task of signing in and punching in. Unlike Captain America, who is alone and has broken up with the Hulk, Iron Man is much happier. Iron Man Tony used to be a playboy and had dated countless women. Even though he has become more restrained now, he is still surrounded by his sexy secretary, Pepper Potts. He is indeed a superhero that everyone envies. Hermione was not idle either. When she came to Iron Man again, she naturally wanted to see his latest research data on the iron armor. People who have not been exposed to this technology naturally cannot understand it. Hermione is a versatile person. She loves learning. Whether it is magic, technology, culture, mathematics, etc., she knows everything. Iron Man Tony is absolutely a genius in the research of mechas. Because Hermione is learning more miscellaneous things, she is even learning fighting spirit and alchemy. Therefore, she does not have the leisure time to spend time researching like Iron Man Tony. Therefore, she usually stands on the shoulders of giants, learns the hard research results of others, and then improves them according to her own characteristics and knowledge. Iron Man Tony does not know that his new technology is being quickly stolen and learned by Hermione, the thief. He was still kissing the female secretary at the moment, so happy, until the old acquaintance of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Phil Coulson, arrived. Seeing Iron Man Tony and the sexy female secretary hugging each other, Phil Coulson pretended to be embarrassed and said, "I seem to have come at the wrong time." Iron Man Tony said humorously and sarcastically, "If a person really feels that he has come at the wrong time, he should choose to leave immediately." The female secretary immediately came over to smooth things over and said, "Don't mind, Tony's words are always not very nice." Phil Coulson, do you have anything important to do here? In the past, Phil Coulson needed to make an appointment at various levels to see Iron Man, but after experiencing the stories of Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2, Agent Phil Coulson can be regarded as an old friend. If he comes to see Iron Man, he can see him at any time without an appointment. This is also the reason why Nick Fury, the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., asked Phil Coulson to come. Phil Coulson quickly took out the document and handed it to Iron Man's sexy female secretary, saying, "Last night, aliens attacked one of our S.H.I.E.L.D. bases, took away important things, and kidnapped one of our important agents." "Aliens?" Iron Man mocked again. "How interesting. What do you do every day at S.H.I.E.L.D.? Now you have attracted aliens?" The female secretary said to Phil Coulson, "Ignore him, just continue talking." Phil Coulson said, "Our commander Nick Fury plans to activate the Avengers immediately and solemnly invites Iron Man Tony Stark to join." At this moment, the female secretary had handed the important document to Iron Man Tony. Tony took it and said self-deprecatingly, "Avengers, I have seen this document, but didn't your commander Nick Fury say that my character was not up to standard? Now it's an alien invasion. The situation is different." Agent Phil Coulson explained, knowing that Iron Man Tony is very eloquent. "Don't beat around the bush, just talk about the matter." Although Iron Man Tony looks frivolous on the surface, in fact, Agent Phil Coulson understands Tony Stark's character, and when it comes to major issues, Iron Man is still reliable. Chapter 612 Hermione and Iron Man. Nick Fury, the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., is quite capable in his work. Among the files that Agent Phil Coulson gave to Iron Man, there was a hard drive. Iron Man only needed to insert it into the computer to operate it manually. There was no need to tediously flip through paper documents to understand the whole story. Iron Man Tony's computer was naturally very advanced, with a fully transparent display that could be operated by touchscreen. Iron Man quickly found something he was interested in from the hard drive, the cosmic cube. After zooming in on the transparent display, Tony Stark looked at it and said, "You are really crazy. You are secretly researching this?" Agent Phil Coulson replied, "Faced with the invasion of aliens, S.H.I.E.L.D. must take some risks. In that case, you S.H.I.E.L.D. will have to bear the consequences yourself." Iron Man didn't want to participate, because the whole story had nothing to do with him, and he didn't need to bear any responsibility. Without waiting for Agent Phil Coulson to continue to persuade her earnestly, Miss Hermione, wearing a white mask, walked out from the inner room. The reason why she chose to show up was mainly because she had just chosen the task of persuading Iron Man. She couldn't always choose the simple option of signing in and punching the clock in. Okay, Hermione is still profit-centered. She will choose whoever gives more, and it is not difficult to do it. Who are you? Iron Man's female secretary, Pepper, looked at Hermione. Although the other party was wearing a white mask in broad daylight and her face could not be seen clearly, her graceful figure and the unique temperament of Stepping Lotus were still amazing. At the same time, there was a sense of crisis. As a beautiful woman in the three-dimensional world, Pepper recently fell in love with her boss, Iron Man Tony Stark. Although she had no ambition to take Iron Man Tony, who was originally a playboy, for herself, however, she did feel pressure because of Hermione's sudden appearance. As a woman, she could clearly feel that this masked Hermione woman must be better, younger and more beautiful than her. I am an agent of SHIELD, named Hermione. Hermione introduced herself generously. Phil Coulson had been influenced before, and he followed his explanation. The secretary, Pepper, understood. Out of politeness, she took the initiative to shake hands with Miss Hermione. Hermione was not against women, so she shook hands with Pepper. The secretary did not notice the strange expression of Iron Man Tony. Although Hermione was wearing a mask, she did not transform and did not change her temperament. So, the moment she strode out, Iron Man seemed to be struck by thunder, and a voice appeared in his heart. This is the Savior, the God, who could fly in the sky while sitting on a broomstick and mysteriously appeared beside Iron Man in the story of Iron Man 1. It can be seen how much Iron Man worships this god. Iron Man will never forget that this god easily turned him into a big spider, and could travel through time and space at will and go back to the past. How terrible it is. I never expected that when I saw the Savior again. She became so approachable, no longer high and mighty, illusory. Instead, she became an agent of SHIELD and appeared in front of him openly. The heartbeat of Iron Man Tony, when he looked into Hermione Granger's big watery eyes, first stopped beating, and then it accelerated wildly. Long time no see. Savior, Ms. Hermione, agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Iron Man Tony lost his previous teasing and swaviness at this moment. He was like a naughty student who met the most strict teacher in history. Hermione laughed in her heart, pretending to be businesslike on the surface, and said, "You don't have to be nervous, just behave the same as usual." Well, Iron Man nodded, and when he saw that the female secretary Pepper and Agent Phil Coulson beside him were both looking at him with doubtful eyes, Iron Man Tony immediately laughed dryly and explained, "This Miss Hermione, Agent, looks like an old friend of mine. My benefactor." Iron Man here understood very well that without Hermione, there would be no Iron Man today. Hermione said without further ado, "The Avengers is a good organization, Iron Man Tony, you should join it." What Agent Phil Coulson just said was not convincing, but now Miss Hermione just said it in a calm tone. Iron Man immediately nodded and said, "No problem, join the Avengers and protect the safety of the Earth." I, Iron Man, have no choice but to do it. Iron Man's words were sonorous and powerful, which was not in line with the cynical character of Iron Man in the past. Secretary Pepper and Agent Phil Coulson were both stunned, as if they didn't believe that the Iron Man in front of them was Iron Man at this moment. After Hermione looked at the system prompt, "Congratulations on completing the option task, reward basic attributes +1, she smiled and said, "That's good, come to visit S.H.I.E.L.D. when you have time. If nothing unexpected happens, I should work at S.H.I.E.L.D. in my spare time." These words also surprised Iron Man from the bottom of his heart. In the stories of Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2, Tony Stark is very aware of how mysterious Hermione is. She will not show up unless it is a matter of life and death. Now, she told Tony Stark that she usually works at S.H.I.E.L.D. Iron Man is such a smart man. Of course he would not think that S.H.I.E.L.D. is so powerful and mysterious, because if S.H.I.E.L.D. is really super scary, there is no need for the Avengers to invite Iron Man Tony to participate. because Iron Man Tony Stark knows about Hermione. As long as the savior, Hermione, takes action, there is no problem that cannot be solved. Hermione is often in S.H.I.E.L.D., which can only mean one thing: God is willing to show up in the world and approach the superheroes she chooses as an ordinary agent. Okay, I will definitely go back to S.H.I.E.L.D. to visit when I have time. Iron Man Tony is still a little nervous when facing the savior, because the identity of Goddess Hermione has changed so much. He doesn't know how to act more naturally for a while. Pepper was very surprised throughout the whole process. She knew Iron Man Tony too well. Even when facing Nick Fury, the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., Iron Man Tony would not change his character. He was still the same as before, no matter what he did or what he said. However, when facing the goddess Hermione, Iron Man Tony's reaction was simply too abnormal. Strictly speaking, Iron Man at this moment was not the fearless Tony Stark that Pepper knew. After the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent left, Pepper couldn't help asking, "Tony, what's wrong with you?" After Agent Hermione appeared, "Your attitude completely changed." "That's not you." Iron Man recovered, hugged his little lover and smiled. "Don't worry, that's me." "Agent Hermione, she is my benefactor, you don't have to doubt too much." "The Avengers, since it is invited by the benefactor, I must join." "It seems that I have to work hard." Iron Man Tony suddenly became full of fighting spirit. "Agent Hermione must have invited several superheroes. I can't be compared with others." Chapter 613 Black Widow and Hulk. At this moment, Iron Man was like a good student encouraged by his teacher, and he began to work hard, full of energy. Secretary Pepper was undoubtedly amazed again. This was the first time she had seen such an Iron Man. She became more and more curious. Who was that female agent Hermione? Why did she have such a huge impact on her boss, Iron Man Tony? Miss Hermione left with Agent Phil Coulson. Although the two did not come together, "Hermione, you are really good." Iron Man Tony Stark usually doesn't listen to anyone, but after you appeared, his attitude immediately changed. "It's a bit unexpected." Phil Coulson looked at the beautiful eyes behind Miss Hermione's mask, as if he wanted to get the answer he wanted from those fascinating eyes. Hermione smiled calmly and said, "This is just an insignificant thing. There will be more things that will surprise you in the future." Exaggerated surprise. Agent Phil Coulson can be considered a person who has seen big scenes, but at this moment he was really shocked. If this female agent Hermione is so powerful, why haven't we heard any rumors about her in S.H.I.E.L.D. before? Hermione didn't explain much. Now, she doesn't need to be too low-key in front of Agent Phil Coulson. The system began to prompt the new mission location. Hermione said something to Agent Phil Coulson and turned around and left. Agent Phil Coulson seemed to have thought of something. When he was about to find Hermione to add a few more words, he found that Miss Hermione had completely disappeared when he turned back. "Isn't this too fast?" Phil Coulson could only sigh, and then he went back to S.H.I.E.L.D. to report to Commander Nick Fury alone. The place where Hermione went was not the location of the villain Loki, although as a god, Hermione could easily go to Loki's territory. However, the system obviously felt that Loki's side was not interesting, not as interesting as the Black Widow and the Hulk. The places where the Hulk Bruce Banner usually hides are poor and backward. Maybe he thinks that such places will not be discovered. Unlike other superheroes, the Hulk's power is close to invincible on Earth, but there is a fatal problem that cannot be effectively controlled. In order to avoid the battle triggering the transformation into the Hulk, Bruce Banner usually lives a secluded life. At the same time, he does not have higher requirements for life. Even in the mountains and forests, he can survive. On this day, the secluded Hulk did not realize that Loki invaded the Earth with the scepter given to him by Thanos. His talent is outstanding in the slums. Out of sympathy, he plays the role of a doctor here. A little girl suddenly came to the Hulk and told Bruce Banner that her mother was sick and needed him to go over for treatment. When Bruce Banner asked the little girl what disease was it, did she have money? The girl shook her head. The Hulk smiled bitterly. As a doctor, he not only had to cure diseases and save people, but also provide medicines to patients who had no money. His economic conditions were not very good to begin with. If this continued, he would not be able to hold on for long. Suspending to save the world is indeed the great good deed, provided that you have the ability. There is only one disease in the world, and that is poverty. There is no cure. Even the Hulk Bruce Banner can't do anything. However, even if he is unable to support himself and has to leave this slum, the Hulk will not choose to leave now. At least he will go to cure the little girl's mother first. So the Hulk packed up and left with the little girl with the medicine box. When the savior Hermione came here for a mission, she felt very uncomfortable when she saw the people in the slums with numb and empty eyes. But she didn't scatter countless gold, silver and jewelry to save these poor people. The main reason is that there are too many poor people. Even if she took out all the gold and silver she had collected for many years, she couldn't save them. Besides, she was not so generous. She couldn't give all the money she collected selflessly just because others were pitiful. However, Hermione still did some things she could do with kindness. That is the children. Because of the poor living conditions in the slums, many children were infected with diseases, and even the Hulk Bruce Banner couldn't cure them. Hermione used advanced magic to instantly heal the poor children she saw. As for their future lives, Hermione couldn't control it. All she could do was to let these children be redeemed from the torture of the disease. As for the Hulk, he would never dream that the little girl who brought her here was actually a liar. After the girl took the Hulk to a thatched house, she opened the window and slipped away. The Hulk was not stupid. After so many years of fleeing, he naturally knew that he had been tricked. However, although the Hulk was angry, he was not panicked. The main reason was that although he could not control his power after transformation, he already understood the limit of his power after transformation into the Hulk. It was not something that ordinary hot weapons could deal with him. So, the Hulk was not panicked. At this time, the Black Widow walked in slowly. When the Hulk saw the sexy figure of the Black Widow and her relatively good face, he immediately smiled and said, "The little girl didn't say that her mother was so young." The Black Widow also smiled. It was her first time to see the Hulk, although the file classified the Hulk as the most dangerous SSS-level existence. But the Hulk before the transformation not only does not look scary, but also looks a bit honest and dull. Don't be nervous, I'm not here to arrest you. I'm an agent of SHIELD, and I hope you can help our Earth resist the attack of aliens. In the original play, Black Widow did not reveal her origin at the beginning. After all, as an excellent spy, she certainly would not reveal her purpose before she fully understands the other party. But Black Widow here may be affected by the butterfly effect. Although she did not communicate much with Goddess Hermione, she still changed. She did not want to beat around the bush. She also read the Hulk's files and investigated what the Hulk did in the slum before coming. The Hulk is a kind and righteous person by nature. So Black Widow decided to tell the truth. Let the Hulk feel the sincerity of their SHIELD, and that he is really needed to maintain peace on Earth. Alien? The Hulk was stunned. Although he was mutated due to gamma rays, and in his story, the villain he faced last time used his blood to become a monster abomination. However, this is the first time someone has said to him so formally that he is an alien. I know it's hard for you to understand what I'm saying, Black Widow said, but it's true. An excellent agent of our SHIELD has been controlled by that alien. Hulk frowned and said, "What does this have to do with me? To be honest, this is the first time I've heard of you calling yourself SHIELD. I don't trust you. I think you just want to use me to start a war." The Hulk refused directly. "Sorry, I'm very busy, and I hope you will let me leave peacefully. Otherwise, when the monster in my body is released, no matter how many of you there are, you will die." The Hulk was not kidding. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 614. Hulk and Captain America meet. The Hulk didn't trust this group of people at all. They would do anything to start a war. He didn't have the idea of fighting for peace like Captain America, but he didn't want his power to become a tool of war, so he has been avoiding it. Today is the same. If the other party doesn't want to anger him or die, Don't provoke him. Black Widow was a little embarrassed. The Hulk in the original play could at least talk to him, but the Hulk here didn't even consider it. It was unlikely to let the Hulk leave directly, but Black Widow was not sure about fighting directly like this. At this moment, Goddess Hermione appeared again. She was still wearing a mask and came step by step. When Black Widow saw the female agent Hermione, she was slightly stunned. Hermione didn't explain why she appeared here. She just said simply, "Hulk, the Avengers need you." This voice, the Hulk didn't intend to pay attention to it, even if Miss Hermione's figure was even more amazing than Black Widow's. So what? But the voice that spoke made the Hulk unable to remain calm. After carefully observing Hermione's temperament, there was no doubt that this was the goddess. In the movie story of the Hulk, he went berserk several times, and in the end, it was God who took action to solve it. "I never thought that I would meet you here." The Hulk was as excited as Iron Man. To outsiders, as superheroes, they are extremely special, but they also deeply understand that compared with the Savior, God, they are just the chess pieces selected by the person in front of them. "Hush," Hermione smiled and said, "it's good that you recognize it. Go to S.H.I.E.L.D. and you will meet many superheroes who are selected like you." Okay, since it was arranged by God, then this Avengers Alliance, he, the Hulk, cannot refuse. The Hulk suddenly became so cooperative and so easy to talk to, and the Black Widow on the side was obviously stunned. She looked at Hermione with disbelief, and then looked at the Hulk, until she came to Hermione and whispered, "What's going on? Why does Bruce Banner listen to you so much?" Hermione smiled and explained, "Because we knew each other before." Black Widow was extremely surprised, but it was naturally a happy thing to be able to complete the task so smoothly. At this moment, in the top secret of S.H.I.E.L.D., Commander Nick Fury was not idle either, although he was the highest decision-maker of S.H.I.E.L.D. on the surface. But in fact, there were leaders above S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury was meeting with many senior leaders through holographic projection at this moment. Nick Fury proposed the Avengers plan and wanted to get the support of the leaders. They are not soldiers, they have not received professional training, and they don't know whether they are loyal to the country. Even if such people are capable, they cannot be entrusted with important tasks casually. But Nick Fury gave a reason. This time the whole Earth is facing a crisis, and no one can stay out of it. They are just top talents in various fields. Special times, special treatment. Just like that, the leaders reluctantly agreed. After all, only S.H.I.E.L.D. has the face to gather so many superheroes together, and other organizations simply do not have this ability. Among them, there was the military, who used all means to capture the Hulk in order to obtain his mutant power. However, the final result was not satisfactory at all. On the way back, the Hulk also showed mixed emotions. Although he was 70% sure that Ms. Hermione in front of him was the God, he knew. But if he wanted to be completely at ease, it would take a long time to verify this. Out of trust in superheroes, S.H.I.E.L.D. took them directly to the supership. From a distance, it looked like a ship on the sea, but standing on the deck, it felt that something was wrong. The Hulk raised his own doubts, and at this time, Captain America also came up. It was also his first time to come to this place. "Who are you?" "Steve Rogers. Outsiders call me Captain America." "Bruce Banner. Others gave me a nickname, the Hulk." Both of them are superheroes, and they can feel each other's strength from the first time they see each other. "I didn't expect that the legendary figure 70 years ago can live to this day." The Hulk did not mean to belittle. Captain America did not hide it and said, "For special reasons, I was frozen and fell asleep for more than 70 years. I just woke up recently." "That's pretty impressive." Seeing that the other party was so frank, the Hulk also said, "I was exposed to gamma rays while doing experiments, which caused genetic mutations in my body. I can't get angry, otherwise I will turn into a monster." Captain America also praised, "This kind of story usually appears in comics. It's also very impressive that it can happen in reality." As soon as the two met, they were bragging about each other's business. At this time, Nick Fury, the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., came over. He was also happy to see that two of the Avengers he planned to arrive at the same time. "Welcome, both of you. Please come this way. I will explain to you in detail the crisis of this alien invasion." As they spoke, the three of them entered the interior of the giant spaceship together. At this time, the spaceship began to take off from the sea. The four super-huge propellers were extremely spectacular when viewed from the window. Captain America and the Hulk were stunned when they saw it. The super spaceship began to take off and also had the ability to be invisible. This shield is so rich, and it is obviously super extraordinary to have such high-tech things. While admiring, the Hulk thought of something, that is, to ask Nick Fury, "What is the identity of Agent Hermione in your shield?" The Hulk will never forget that she called herself God at the beginning, and her superpowers can indeed bear this title. Now, he finally has the opportunity to understand all this. And of course the Hulk wants to ask it clearly. Nick Fury said with some embarrassment, "Agent Hermione has been in our shield for a long time. However, I don't know her specific identity and origin." Nick Fury certainly didn't know. Hermione used advanced magic to affect their perception and thinking. How could he know the specific situation? However, Captain America pulled the Hulk and said, "I know Hermione better. If you want to know, I can tell you what I know." "Oh?" The Hulk immediately became energetic. The two walked to the side, and Nick Fury was isolated instead. When Captain America told the Hulk about his encounter with Hermione 70 years ago, the Hulk was undoubtedly stunned. It seems that she is indeed a god. 70 years ago, she was already looking for people to become superheroes. The Hulk also told Captain America about the times when he was protected by Hermione. "In fact, I guessed it when you mentioned your doubts about Hermione," Captain America said. "I also speculate that Hermione's identity and shield is also fake. As far as I know, the information shield has about Hermione is what she wants them to know." The Hulk nodded and said, "With your reminder, I know a lot more." Both of them sighed in their hearts that the goddess Hermione is too strong. She should be able to predict the future. Before S.H.I.E.L.D. Commander Nick Fury formulated the Avengers, she had already begun to look for superhero candidates all over the world. She is worthy of being the savior of Marvel. Chapter 615. The Avengers join forces for the first time. Because of the Hulk's reminder, S.H.I.E.L.D. Commander Nick Fury also began to pay attention to Hermione, the female agent wearing a white mask. He notified Black Widow and asked her to observe Hermione more secretly. However, when Hermione returned, Commander Nick Fury only took a look at Hermione, and his original suspicion of Hermione immediately disappeared. Hermione's magic is too powerful. However, Black Widow saw it all clearly. She was even more shocked. "Just now Nick Fury asked me to secretly investigate Agent Hermione, but in the blink of an eye, he just changed." Not only does Captain America know Hermione, but the Hulk also knows Hermione. Could it be that this woman is the real mastermind behind the scenes? Hermione came to Black Widow and smiled. "What are you daydreaming about?" Black Widow was startled, and she didn't dare to look into Hermione's eyes. If it is in the file, the Hulk's danger is SSS, the highest level, then, this seemingly inconspicuous but always running through the entire Marvel story, the danger level of Hermione should be SSSS, the horror level of 5S. Nothing. I wonder what the alien who stole the cosmic cube will do now. Black Widow did not dare to question Hermione directly like Commander Nick Fury did. Otherwise, her thoughts and brain would definitely be controlled. Too scary. Black Widow even suspected that Agent Hermione was also an alien, with the same ability to control people's hearts as Loki's Mind Scepter. Even more advanced, Hawkeye was controlled by Loki, like a walking corpse, which was obviously abnormal. However, Commander Nick Fury was brainwashed, which was extremely normal, except for the abnormality in handling Agent Hermione's affairs. The rest of the handling of the incident was the same as usual. This is too scary. Our people are always using big data to monitor all parts of the world. If the alien Loki has any actions, we will be able to find it at the first time. Hermione knows everything about SHIELD. This made Black Widow even more afraid to act trashly. She pretended to be normal and said, "I hope that alien will leave the Earth completely after stealing the cosmic cube." Yes. This is also the expectation of the senior leaders. If there is really an alien civilization, then the Earth should belong to a low-level civilization and should not be taken seriously. The cosmic cube does not belong to the Earth. It is stolen. As long as the aliens do not launch a war or invade the Earth, it will be fine. As the commander of SHIELD, Nick Fury actively prepares for war and organizes the Avengers, while also having this expectation. However, Hermione broke their fantasy and said, if it was other aliens who stole the cosmic cube, they might really leave the Earth. But this Loki will not. He is an ambitious person who is full of desire for power. He wants not only the cosmic cube, he also wants to be the king and enslave all the creatures on the Earth. To make up for his failure in competing for the throne of Asgard, Black Widow was shocked again. You also know about the alien Loki? Hermione patted Black Widow's shoulder and smiled. I know a little bit. Hermione didn't say much. At this time, her system began to prompt. She immediately came to a supercomputer on the super spaceship. After Hermione sat down, her slender fingers flexibly tapped the keyboard. At this moment, she turned into a computer expert and a supercomputer hacker. If Iron Man Tony was beside him, he would definitely be amazed. Hermione's technical knowledge of technology is not inferior to his. The reason why Hermione exposed her computer skills was just a system option she chose. Lock in the place where the villain Loki is about to attack in advance. Nick Fury, the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., the beautiful spy Black Widow, Captain America and the Hulk, as well as Maria Hill, the 9th-level agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., all came behind Hermione. Okay, we have locked on the alien Loki. That Loki seemed to be deliberately exposed to the Sky camera. He was the only one and very arrogant. The place where he invaded was in Germany, at a high-end banquet, and the scene was full of successful people from the world. What does he want to do? Hermione replied, with such a big fanfare, maybe Loki's real purpose is not here, but since he has appeared, we can't just sit back and watch. As the commander of SHIELD, Nick Fury immediately said, from now on, the Avengers are officially established. The first mission is to capture the alien Loki. No matter what his purpose is, we must crush it. Everyone immediately started to act. On the plane, Captain America, Black Widow and Hermione were all present, but Commander Nick Fury and the Hulk were also on the super spaceship. Because of the special situation, the Hulk's power was out of control. Commander Nick Fury didn't dare to let him take action easily until the last moment. It just so happened that the Hulk was also knowledgeable. Even if he didn't fight on the front line, he could still play his role in the rear. Commander Nick Fury gave the Hulk the research data of the cosmic cube over the years and asked him to analyze what the alien Loki was going to do with it after stealing it. Not only did Loki escape the cosmic cube, he also controlled Hawkeye. This vengeance will not be let go so easily. The Avengers' goal is revenge. When Loki stole the cosmic cube, he also indirectly destroyed the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, and also killed many scientists and researchers, as well as the Guardian agents. These are all blood feuds. Captain America's hatred is not strong, but his original intention is to protect peace. Now that the alien Loki has come to the Earth to make trouble, he, an old antique who has been sleeping for more than 70 years, cannot sit idly by. Hermione took out her cell phone and said to Captain America and Black Widow, in a while, you just go up and fight. I have contacted another superhero in the Avengers, Iron Man, and he will be here soon. Contacting Iron Man was originally the task of Commander Nick Fury, but Hermione had Iron Man's private phone number, so she could notify him faster. Black Widow's expression was a little strange. Although she knew that Agent Hermione knew Iron Man, it was still incredible that she could organize the Avengers' first joint battle so quickly. Black Widow even had an illusion that the Avengers were not organized by Commander Nick Fury, but by Agent Hermione. This idea was too horrifying. Fortunately, the plane soon arrived at the place where the alien Loki was making trouble, and there was no extra time for Black Widow to think about it. Action. At the place where the incident occurred, Loki was very arrogant. He held the scepter in his hand and came to the place where the upper class gathered. The buildings here are all noble marble, magnificent. It is a paradise on Earth. However, since Loki appeared, this place has become hell, and anyone who dared to stop him was killed by him. The body lay on the ground, not yet cold. But for Loki, this is no different from killing an ant. The money, status or noble identity on Earth are all worthless to Loki. He kills if he wants to. Moreover, as an evil god, he appeared in such a lively place to make trouble, naturally with a real purpose. He knew that SHIELD had something, and was afraid that the Avengers they organized would destroy his plan. At the same time, Loki also wanted to put some pressure on the humans on Earth, so he showed up. He wanted to rule the world as a demon king. Chapter 616, The Evil God Loki's Conspiracy. As an evil god, Loki likes to play tricks when doing things. He always likes to take a few more turns to act when he can be tough. Perhaps he thinks that doing so will make the story more interesting. Although as a villain in the Marvel world, his ending is doomed. Unless the goddess Hermione has a brain injury, she will choose to help him. However, this possibility is very small. Kneel down. Loki actually learned the art of shadow clones, and one person turned into four, surrounding all the upper-class people in this high-end banquet. He was arrogant and despised this group of humans and said, "You are all a group of dirty creatures." In front of the gods, you can only be sincere and kneel down devoutly. Loki wants to become their god by force. This group of humans who are greedy for life and afraid of death are ultimately unable to resist, and the temperature of the corpse next to them may not be cold yet. This Loki can turn into four in an instant. This ability is simply unheard of for them. Therefore, more and more upper-class people kneel down. Loki is high above. He is suspended in the air, wearing a golden armor. So awesome. However, there are still some hard-headed humans. An old man may feel that he will not live for many more years anyway, so it is better to die with dignity than to live in humiliation. He stood up and looked at Loki with a determined and confrontational look. Ha ha ha. Loki laughed. He could have used the Mind Scepter to change the old man's mind and make him a puppet like Hawkeye that he could control at will. However, Loki did not do so. He felt that if he did so, the story would become particularly boring. He raised the scepter, and the power of magic condensed into a terrible beam of light. He wanted to kill the old man directly. Since he wanted to die, Loki, the evil god, would satisfy him. Just when the hard-headed old man was about to be killed by Loki, Captain America suddenly jumped down with a shield, and the beam of light hit the shield, and the murderous attack dissipated directly. The whole audience cheered. The superhero they wanted is here. 70 years have passed, and except for the elderly, most young people no longer know Captain America. But they also understood that the American captain who suddenly jumped out at this time was their superhero. Humphrey. Loki was swept in the face, and it seemed that he was not happy. He immediately raised his scepter again and launched a new attack. At this time, Black Widow also joined the battlefield. Goddess Hermione pulled out a pistol. She had great marksmanship. She knew that ordinary bullets could not kill Loki, so she did not choose to enchant. She just used tricky marksmanship. The bullets shot at Loki's eyeballs and Loki's fingers. Loki was caught off guard and cried out in pain. "It's that sharpshooter again." Loki had seen Hermione's marksmanship before. But Loki was an evil god after all, and he could still gain the upper hand in a one-on-two situation. The main reason was that Loki could fly, while Captain America and Black Widow could not fly, so they suffered a great loss in the battle. At this moment, Iron Man, who could also fly, arrived in time and saw the masked female agent Hermione. He felt strange because Iron Man knew Hermione was a god, but at this moment, he was shooting like an ordinary agent, which was obviously a bit lax. However, Iron Man did not pursue it too much. He, who could fly, joined forces with Captain America and Black Widow to catch Loki off guard. Loki put away his arrogant attitude just now, and realized that the people in front of him were the superpowers on Earth. 1-on-1, Loki was not afraid, but 1-on-3, no, 1-on-4, it was still difficult to win, especially that agent Hermione. Her shooting skills were extremely annoying, and the bullets did not even spare Loki's ears. If Loki had not been prepared, I'm afraid that both of his ears would have been shot off now. Boom. Loki was finally knocked down from midair by Iron Man, and the scepter in his hand also fell to the side. Captain America and Black Widow immediately rushed up, wanting to use their fists and feet to help Loki loosen his bones. However, this Loki was too shameless, and immediately raised his hands in surrender and said, "I surrender, you can arrest me." The enemies surrendered, and at this time, Captain America and Black Widow, as righteous superheroes, could not do anything in public. They had to take out special handcuffs and put them on Loki. In this way, this extremely arrogant evil god from the Protoss was easily captured. Loki has many means, and he is indeed at a disadvantage when he is 1-on-3, especially since Iron Man and Captain America have strong defenses. But if Loki wants to escape, it is still quite easy. In other words, he is acting like the goddess Hermione. Loki was captured on purpose. He wanted to be captured inside S.H.I.E.L.D. in this way, so as to find out the truth of S.H.I.E.L.D., and from within the Avengers, completely disintegrate the superheroes formed to fight Loki. Loki's idea is good, but it is obviously unnecessary. A real war does not require so many conspiracies and intrigues, and military suppression is enough. Whoever has the bigger fist is the boss. The excessive use of conspiracies and tricks just shows that this Loki is not suitable to be a hegemon, he is more suitable to be a conspirator. And if a conspirator wants to become a hegemon, the ending is doomed to be not very good. Loki's direction is wrong, and it is very wrong. As the commander of the alien invaders, he is willing to be captured by the Avengers formed by the Earth Shield, no matter what the purpose is. This shows that his conspiracies and tricks are not up to the standard. Those who achieve great things are all great wisdom and great strategy. Loki's approach is too petty. Of course, Loki himself still feels good about himself. After being caught, he still has a smile on his face and is not panicked at all. Inside the super spaceship of S.H.I.E.L.D. flying in the air, Nick Fury's decision as the commander also has major problems. They knew that Loki was caught so easily. There must be a conspiracy, but they still brought him here, in the uninhabited area of the Earth, just to arrange a prison and torture him severely, and bring the enemy who is known to be dangerous to the fragile air headquarters. It's like, instead of arranging the enemy's bomb in the desert or the sea, you bring it home to defuse it. It can only be said that in this game, Loki's petty conspiracy and scheming are in sharp contrast to the careless strategy of S.H.I.E.L.D. The two are equally matched. Both are eye-catching operations in the low-end game. Hermione, a high-end game player, shook her head when she saw it. Fortunately, she is a god, who is a bystander. If she were to come, she would only say that such a pig teammate can't be carried. Loki was arranged by the smart commander Nick Fury to be imprisoned in a special glass cabin. This place is very special. As long as the prisoners inside are not under control, the prisoners and the cells can be thrown under the spacecraft at any time. The height is more than 3,000 meters. Ordinary people fall down with this glass cell and are estimated to be smashed into meat paste. But, the smart commander Nick Fury obviously underestimated the ability of the alien Loki. He is a wizard. It is too easy for him to escape from this purely physical cage. However, only the goddess Hermione can see through this. However, Goddess Hermione looked at Loki's rough performance and did not expose him. They were all low-end operations, so it was not easy to blame who was right or wrong. It was just a fight between noobs. Besides, the ultimate goal of Goddess Hermione was just to complete the tasks step by step in the three-choice task, and then deduce a suitable ending. Goddess Hermione received the reward, the story went smoothly, and everyone was happy. Nick Fury, the smart commander, came to judge Loki in person. First he accused him of murder, and then asked him what his ultimate purpose was in stealing the cosmic cube. Chapter 617 Goddess Hermione obtains the Mind Stone. If Loki could cooperate honestly, he would not be an evil god. Back in the Asgard Protoss, he did all kinds of tricks, and on Earth, he did it again. Facing the trial of the clever commander Nick Fury, Loki said that he was not panicked, but laughed at him. If you can find out the real purpose of my stealing the cosmic cube, I will naturally admire you, but you are dreaming if you want me to tell you. Facing the ridicule of Loki, the captive, Nick Fury was not angry. Although it was too wise to arrange Loki, a time bomb, at home, Nick Fury was able to become the commander of SHIELD, which was also desirable. In the Marvel Universe, no one is perfect, even superheroes have fatal flaws. There is no need to laugh at others' shortcomings all the time. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. The fact that Nick Fury was able to form the Avengers to fight against the alien invasion is enough to prove his strength. As for some stupid moves, such as not placing Loki in the uninhabited area of the Earth, but bringing him to the spaceship with weak defense, so that once this time bomb exploded, the entire shield would be almost instantly destroyed by more than half of its strength. It is also understandable. After all, Nick Fury is just a human being. He is not a perfect goddess like Miss Hermione. Hermione is an extremely cautious human being. Later, she grew up step by step to the present. Hermione has always been well-rounded and has almost no shortcomings. An all-round goddess. Without waiting for Nick Fury to continue interrogating, Loki, handcuffed and in a glass cage, began to fight back. After observing this special cage, he laughed and said, "This device is so perfect. It seems that it was perfected a long time ago, and it was not originally built to catch me." Similarly, although Loki's conspiracy is petty, if he wants to become the overlord of the Earth, he should design it so that the humans on the Earth will start the Third World War and let them kill each other. When most of the humans are dead, he will come forward as an alien and reap the benefits. This is the great talent and strategy of becoming a hegemon, playing with the entire human race on Earth. Instead of risking one's life and being captured alive in a small shield, he still thinks that his strategy is high-end, but in fact it is very low-level. Even in the original drama, the last tour launched by Loki can only be regarded as a city-scale battle at most, far less than the many large-scale wars that already exist on Earth. Therefore, Loki is only clever but not wise. However, this cannot be used to completely belittle Loki. As the evil god of the gods, Loki has fatal shortcomings, but his advantages are also something that many ordinary people cannot catch up with in their lifetime. It can only be said that there is no perfect person in the Marvel Universe. You can't completely deny all of him because of his shortcomings. Take Loki's current counterattack, for example. He is eloquent and has a pair of eyes that can see through human nature. He continued, "As far as I know, there is a dangerous SSS-level person among the Avengers you have recruited. You call them superheroes on the surface, but secretly you are building this special cage to imprison him. Luckily, I used this special cage in advance." Commander Nick Fury was very upset. He was obviously interrogating Loki. Due to the unknown injustice, he had no way to torture the captives like the villain organizations like Hydra. If Hydra interrogated, it would be enough to make the captured people live a life worse than death. This is the villain organization. After all, S.H.I.E.L.D. is a decent organization, and it must consider the consequences and impact of anything it does. In the initial confrontation, Commander Nick Fury was defeated, and he was unwilling to communicate with Loki again. This alien is too smart, and he will make mistakes if he speaks too much. Just from this special cage, he has guessed that this cage was built by S.H.I.E.L.D. and its original purpose was to imprison the Hulk. The Hulk on the side was embarrassed. He was not stupid. His level of danger was the most dangerous among many superheroes, because his power is out of control. Therefore, before he turned angry, Bruce Banner could understand what S.H.I.E.L.D. did, but he must have been unhappy. He was recruited by Black Widow and others to maintain peace on Earth, but S.H.I.E.L.D. prepared a cage to hold him in advance. What is this? Loki was very happy. He had seen that a few words from him had caused rifts within the Avengers. This was one of his petty conspiracies. Loki continued to pursue his victory and said, "The Cosmic Cube has been developed by your S.H.I.E.L.D. for many years. Don't tell me, this alien, that your purpose of developing the Cosmic Cube is to benefit all mankind. If you plan to use the Cosmic Cube as a weapon, then your actions as Earthlings are undoubtedly declaring war on the entire universe." Loki's words were quite impressive. An extremely important diplomatic method was mentioned here, which was mentioned in the story of the three-body problem. The Trisolarians did not allow the Earth to continue to develop high technology, and kept the level of technology on Earth at the primitive society. Only in this way could the Earthlings continue to survive. If the Earthlings violate this overlord clause and continue to develop new technologies and new weapons, then it will be considered that the Earthlings want to declare war on the Trisolarans, declare war on the highly intelligent people in the entire universe. It is difficult to give a correct answer, because neither living a cowardly life nor continuing to develop is right. The Dark Forest Law will eventually destroy all enemies, whether they are already developed enemies or potential backward enemies. The Dark Forest Law is to destroy all organic life. Only when you live by yourself will there be no danger. All enemies must be destroyed, no matter how big or small. We Earthlings don't need you, an alien, to comment too much on what we do. Commander Nick Fury said with a rare toughness, as long as you aliens dare to come, we Earthlings will make you go without return. Loki did not show weakness and said, I hope you can still think so when the moment when the Earth is devastated. The two looked at each other sharply, and Nick Fury left. Although the Avengers Alliance was established not long ago, everyone's thoughts have not been unified. Everyone knows that Loki is a villain, but everyone began to think about what he said. Don't be fooled by Loki. He said that on purpose to destroy our unity. Black Widow was sober for a rare time. Ever since Loki controlled Hawkeye, Black Widow's hostility towards Loki has been greater than any of them. But he is right about one thing. That special cage should be prepared for me. The Hulk smiled bitterly. Captain America patted the Hulk on the shoulder and comforted him silently. Iron Man Tony also started to make trouble. I want to know now, what is the real purpose of your SHIELD's secret research on the Cosmic Cube? If you hadn't activated that thing, it wouldn't have attracted aliens to come. There wouldn't be this crisis on Earth. Everyone was silent. Black Widow reluctantly said, Tony Stark, please calm down and don't be instigated by Loki. Everything we do at SHIELD is to maintain world peace. But it is obvious that this statement cannot be recognized by everyone, until Iron Man suddenly thought of the goddess who was not in the original play, Hermione. He looked around and asked, where's Hermione? Hermione is now thinking about the Mind Stone on Loki's scepter. Only she knows that this thing is the most important. Everything else is just a passing cloud. Chapter 618. Going back to the past and bringing Thor to join the group. Miss Hermione's goal is very clear. Although she often seems to be doing nothing, her ultimate goal is to live and become stronger. Life is endless. Struggle is endless. In order to maintain the integrity of the story, Hermione did not attack the Cosmic Cube. For the sake of the overall situation, she did not kill Loki. Now, among the system option tasks, there is finally an opportunity for her to have the opportunity to obtain the Mind Stone, one of the Infinity Stones. Miss Hermione will certainly not miss it. Even if the other option rewards are not bad, they are still a world of difference compared to the Mind Stone. In the secret room where the scepter is stored, Hermione sneaked in quietly. The moment her palm touched the scepter, a powerful force instantly attracted Hermione's entire person directly inside. What's going on? Does this scepter also have a built-in time travel function? Hermione actually had a psychological expectation. It is not an easy thing to get the Mind Stone safely, but the current situation did not expect her. Fortunately, she did not cross to other places in the universe. Even Hermione had prepared for the worst, because this Mind Scepter came from the guy Thanos. If it was guided by the scepter, Miss Hermione would most likely be teleported to Thanos' side. However, this worst situation did not happen. Miss Hermione was only teleported to the time when Iron Man, Black Widow, and Captain America fought Loki. Watching Loki fight three superheroes alone, she was holding a pistol in her hand and shooting. Why did you come back here? What does this have to do with me getting the Mind Stone? Hermione didn't quite understand. Although it was not the first time she went back to the past, there were clues to explore before, but this time, it was a bit confusing. However, Hermione soon understood something. It turns out that going back to the past is to fix the bug. In the original play, because of the appearance of Loki, not only the Avengers on Earth were dispatched, but also Thor, the god of thunder from the realm of God. The movie did not reveal in detail why Thor came so timely. However, It is obvious that the system pop-up option here gives the answer, yes. Hermione went to notify. I see. It turns out that Thor is missing. Hermione smiled secretly, and without hesitation, she immediately took out the portkey, and teleported directly to Asgard. Thor is not the king yet. In the story of Thor 1, Hermione did not appear many times, but Thor and Father Odin knew of her existence. Now with the improvement of strength and the increase of experience in traveling through different worlds, Miss Hermione is no longer shy. She wore a mask and appeared directly in the magnificent Asgard temple. Facing Odin and Thor, she was calm and unhurried. Who are you? Odin and Thor were not stupid, and the powerful power emanating from Hermione should not be underestimated. Thor was naturally very familiar with the aura of Hermione. After all, Hermione secretly helped him a lot. Who I am is not important. You can understand that I am the God who maintains the order of the universe. The name Hermione arranged for herself is getting bigger and bigger. The title of God first appeared in the divination class at Hogwarts, because the divination professor said that Hermione was a god in her previous life. Although it was a bit weird, Hermione also agreed with this noble title. Savior comes from the system. Hermione is not a saint. Although she has a kind side, she does not want to spend all her life and time helping others. She still has her own things to do. Therefore, she is not really qualified as a savior, except when she first crossed into Marvel. She called herself a savior, but later she did not use it, because this title is a bit of moral kidnapping. If she is really a savior, then what should she do about the sufferings of the world? She has watched so many creatures living in pain and suffering with cold eyes. What kind of savior is she? Now, with Hermione's understanding of the system, she feels more and more like a god who maintains the order of the universe. Where there are bugs, she will come forward to solve them. Therefore, when Odin, the father of the gods, claims to be a god who maintains the order of the universe, Hermione thinks it is nothing wrong. Without waiting for Odin and Thor to react in surprise, Hermione continued, the evil god Loki is not dead. Now he is being instructed by someone to cause chaos on Earth, one of the 9 realms, and he has also stolen the cosmic cube. What? Odin didn't care about Hermione's identity. His second son actually caused him so much trouble. Odin looked at Thor beside him. Thor stood up and said, I'll go and bring him back. That's the best. Hermione said to Thor, I know that the Rainbow Bridge teleportation array in Asgard is damaged, and it's more troublesome to teleport in space now. Thor, come here, I'll take you directly to Earth. So awesome. Odin and Thor were both a little surprised. The teleportation of the Rainbow Bridge also requires huge energy and cumbersome operations. This goddess Hermione, who claims to maintain the order of the universe, can actually travel through time and space at will. If it was someone he didn't know, Thor might not trust her so much. However, like Iron Man and Captain America, he was very familiar with Hermione, and that feeling was not wrong. Even though he couldn't see her face clearly, Thor strode over to Hermione and whispered, Are you the savior who helped me back then? Hermione had a perfect slim figure, while Thor was a burly man. The two of them looked quite beautiful standing together. After all, they were both gods. Trust your own feelings. If you feel it is, then it is. Having said that, Hermione didn't delay any longer and immediately took Thor to use the portkey, instantly shuttled to Earth. To be honest, Hermione's portkey was not omnipotent. For example, from Earth to Asgard, such a long distance, taking one more person with her is almost at its limit. And if Hermione obtains the cosmic cube, uses the space transmission power of the cosmic cube, and then uses the portkey, the maximum power may be able to teleport the entire Asgard army to Earth. Therefore, the Infinity Stones in the Marvel Universe are more attractive to Hermione than the strange fire in the Doppelgangerian world. However, Hermione can bear it. She knew that the time had not come yet, and she could not forcefully obtain such treasures. Just like the fruit on the tree, if you forcibly pick it before it is ripe, it will not taste sweet. You must learn to be patient, fertilize and remove insects, and when it is ripe, it will naturally be Hermione's. Because they shuttled too fast, Thor wanted to say something to Hermione, But it was too late. When he saw the evil god Loki in golden armor, holding a scepter, doing whatever he wanted on Earth, he was very angry. Although Thor was also demoted to the human world, he never killed people easily, and was careful in fighting and did not take anyone's life. But Loki is different. He regards human life as worthless. He wants to start a war and invade the entire Earth civilization. This is intolerable. Thor picked up Thor's hammer and joined the battle. Loki wanted to cry but had no tears. Why is this guy here too? He came too timely. This is the first time he has done something big on Earth. The last time he was at the SHIELD base was just a small test. But this time, Captain America, Black Widow, Iron Man and Thor all came. Chapter 619. The Great Battle. Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, Loki. Thor's feelings towards Loki are quite complicated. Love and hate. And he also feels sorry for his failure to make good use of his power. Thor has always hoped that brothers can work together to achieve great things. But Loki doesn't think so. He has always wanted to be better than Thor. He wants to make some great achievements. He wants Thor to understand how powerful he is. He wants to let Odin, the father of the gods, see that he is the real genius. Thor doesn't want to hurt innocent people. Now he holds Thor's hammer and his fighting power is off the charts. If he starts a war here, countless ordinary humans will be killed with just one blow. He quickly flew up and grabbed Loki's neck. Like a cannonball, he kept holding Loki and flew out of the human city and into the wilderness. The fruits of victory were stolen. In the previous version, Thor did not appear. It was Miss Hermione who traveled through time and space to return to this battle after touching the Mind Scepter in order to get the Mind Stone. However, follow the task prompts. This time Hermione is going to Asgard and bring Thor to join the group for a big fight. Because the original Avengers also include Thor. In the previous story, Thor fell behind. This time, Hermione wants to bring him along. As long as she completes this relatively difficult task, Hermione will be able to get a generous reward. For the reward, Goddess Hermione is also conscientious in doing things. However, because of information bias, Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow and others don't know. They fought for so long and finally defeated Loki, but this Thor, who just came, grabbed Loki's neck and took him away directly. Too infuriating. Iron Man can also fly, and the iron armor is fully fired, quickly chasing Thor. Captain America, this old antique, is a little envious, but there is no way. He can't fly, so he can only take a helicopter and catch up quickly. Thor just took Loki to the wild. Not too far. He grabbed Loki and came to a barren mountain full of boulders. Thor's eyes revealed sadness and deep brotherly love. Thor's first sentence was not to blame, but to say affectionately, "You are not dead." Loki saw Thor's appearance, and no one could guess what he was thinking. He sneered on the surface, "How can I die easily if my great cause is not yet accomplished?" Great cause? Don't talk about it in a high-sounding way. You only bring war. Thor began to blame. Who instructed you? What do you want to do by stealing the cosmic cube? Hand over the cosmic cube and go home with me. Go home? Loki was stimulated by this word. Asgard is your home, Thor, but not mine. I am a frost giant, and Jotunheim is my home. Thor was angry. You are my father's son, and Asgard is your home. During the argument, Iron Man came quickly with flames on his tail. Hand over Loki. Iron Man shouted. This alien who had committed crimes on Earth, Iron Man would not allow him to be taken away by another alien. What is this? Journey to the West. Aliens without backgrounds were killed directly, but aliens with backgrounds could be taken back intact. What is Earth? Come as you please, leave as you please. Thor was also very persistent. Loki is my brother. We in Asgard will judge him for what he did wrong. Since they couldn't reach an agreement, they started fighting. Whoever has the harder fist is the truth. Iron Man took the initiative to attack. Although Thor is a god, he is not much stronger than Iron Man. In the first few fights, Thor was at a disadvantage. Fortunately, Thor was thick-skinned and not injured. After discovering Iron Man's shortcomings, Thor fought back strongly, and he did not think of killing Iron Man. It's just that the two disagreed, and only the one with the bigger fist can have the final say. In the original play, Loki stayed there to watch the show and did not leave. With his magic, it is easy to escape in an instant. However, he was finally caught by the Earth Avengers, and his conspiracy has not yet begun to be implemented, so how can he leave easily? However, here, Loki seems to feel that something is wrong. It is better to take the opportunity to leave first, and then make other plans when the time is right. The main reason is that Loki feels that Thor and the Earth Avengers are fighting, and it is a rare opportunity. If he does not take the opportunity to escape, it would be a bit sorry for the two of them fighting so fiercely. The surrounding boulders are broken, and countless trees collapse. However, what surprised Loki was that suddenly the magic power in his body seemed to be blocked. Is it because I am too seriously injured? The spell failed to work? Just when Loki first guessed that this was the case, Miss Hermione wearing a white mask suddenly appeared beside him. She raised her pistol skillfully, pointed it at Loki's head and said, "Don't move, or I'll blow your head off." Loki didn't know whether to laugh or cry. As an evil god, it was the first time that a human pointed a pistol at his head. However, Loki felt that this human woman was a little unusual. However, after years of arrogance, Loki sneered, "Do you think a pistol can threaten me?" Miss Hermione did not reveal her true strength. She said, "If you don't believe me, you can try it." Loki was amused by Miss Hermione's persistence. "Okay, you win. Don't shoot." At this time, Loki seemed to have thought of something. He asked curiously, "You can't fly either. How did you get here?" "Who said I can't fly?" Hermione complained in her heart. "Do you really think of me as an ordinary agent?" Hermione was too lazy to explain, because at this time, the battle was getting intense. "Don't force me." Thor was a little angry. The Iron Man's armor was very hard. He thought that he could solve the battle within a few moves, but it turned out to be a 50-50 fight. Iron Man was not feeling well, although the battle seemed to be a 50-50 match. But in fact, Thor had amazing recovery ability, but Iron Man was different. He was immortal. In the previous battle, he could still use the hard Iron Man armor to resist. But now, the armor was almost broken. If he lost the armor's defense and used his physical body to fight, Iron Man would definitely lose. Fortunately, at this moment, an armed helicopter arrived. On it were Black Widow and Captain America. "I'll go down first." Captain America was very fierce. He took his own shield and jumped off the helicopter. Bang! He fell to the ground and couldn't get up for a long time. But he had super soldier serum in his body, and his cells divided quickly. His recovery speed was not much worse than Thor. He quickly got up and joined the battle. "Iron Man, I'll help you." As both were Earthlings, it went without saying that Captain America would naturally be on the same side as Iron Man. "You guys are really annoying." Thor was getting a little impatient. He held Thor's hammer and hit Captain America's shield. The powerful force directly nailed Captain America's legs into the mud. But Captain America's shield was intact. Thor was shocked. Such a hard shield couldn't be broken. Iron Man took the opportunity to speed up and used the bull charge to knock Thor out with one blow. The terrifying force made Thor fly backwards and broke several thick trees before he stopped. But the hammer in his hand was also lost. Chapter 620 Hermione's position in the Avengers. It doesn't matter if the hammer is lost. Thor waved his hand and the hammer would return to his hand immediately. Such a high-tech method also shocked Captain America. This person is not only extremely powerful, but also can summon weapons at will. He is a tough character. Captain America and Iron Man looked at each other, thinking about countermeasures and how to get rid of the enemy. At this time, the goddess Hermione, who had been watching the battle, stood up. She spoke. "Okay, don't fight anymore." Hermione's voice was not particularly loud, but her status was unparalleled. As soon as she finished speaking, Iron Man, Captain America and Thor looked at her at the same time. Of course, this also included Loki, who was still pointed at his head by Hermione. In Loki's opinion, this woman was a little overestimating her own abilities. Those present were all the best superpowers on Earth, who could fight Loki on equal terms. How capable could this woman with a gun and a mask be? However, A situation that was completely beyond Loki's expectations suddenly occurred. The people who were fighting fiercely just now stopped fighting at the same time. They put down their weapons as if they were following orders. This subtle difference just shows how powerful Hermione is in Marvel. No fight. No acquaintance. We shouldn't fight for an alien. Iron Man spoke first. Thor smiled and said, in fact, according to the understanding of Earthlings, I am also an alien. Captain America immediately tried to smooth things over, saying, aliens can be good or bad, and we can't generalize. This is human nature. When they are enemies, they desperately look for the points of disagreement with each other, with the goal of eliminating dissidents. When they decide to shake hands and make peace, they start desperately looking for common points between the two sides. Yes, that's right, we are all good people. Thor also borrowed the ladder to go down. Only Loki looked strange. Who is this masked woman? Why does it feel like the three people at the scene care about her very much? After Hermione asked them to stop fighting, she stopped talking. Naturally, Loki was successfully captured and brought back to the S.H.I.E.L.D. spaceship. Hermione thought about it and did not remind them to arrange other places. After all, it is also necessary to let the story develop smoothly. Too much intervention is not good. Everyone returned to the S.H.I.E.L.D. space together, but this time was different from the last time. Not only was there Thor and the Avengers. At the same time, Loki began to pay more attention to this masked female agent. During the period of Loki's capture, his arrogant attitude naturally restrained. Compared with the verbal confrontation with S.H.I.E.L.D. Commander Nick Fury, Loki also began to ask questions to learn a lot about the female agent Hermione. Just when Loki was about to succeed, Hermione finally completed this relatively difficult task. Congratulations on completing the optional task, and reward a high imitation mind gem. One piece. It is indeed a high imitation version, just like the last time you got Thor's hammer. Because the hammer was engraved with emojis, Hermione, as a lady, felt that it did not fit her temperament, so after getting it, she rarely used it. In the middle period of Marvel, Hermione preferred to use guns and ammunition. In the early period, of course, she used more magic. Now she likes to use guns, because, as an agent, it is most normal to use such weapons, and she can also satisfy her craving for shooting. Unlike the high imitation emoji version of Thor's hammer, the mind gem awarded by completing the system option task this time can obviously be used in more scenarios. It is not like the high imitation emoji version of Thor's hammer, which is too embarrassing to take out. A new treasure, of course, needs to be carefully processed. The real mind gem has not yet been extracted from the mind scepter, but the high imitation mind gem awarded by the system should not be bad. In the original play, it is not easy to fully exert the power of the Infinity Gems. The Hydra organization has been researching the Cosmic Cube for many years, and at most it has developed a very useless beam weapon. The same is true for SHIELD, which has not studied it to any purpose. Only later, Thanos, using the Infinity Gauntlet, was able to fully unleash the true power of the Infinity Stones. Hermione is a versatile person, and she naturally has more ways than others. In fact, she has read both the research materials of Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D., and she did her homework before playing with the Infinity Stones. Hermione is an extremely careful and strategic person. At this moment, she finally got her wish to obtain the first Infinity Stone in the Marvel world. Hermione used advanced magic, the alchemy of the Deki continent, and the science and theology of the Marvel world to successfully make a ring. She named it the First Generation Infinity Stone Ring. The greatest ability of this ring is to activate the power of the Infinity Stones, allowing the Infinity Stones to release their powerful energy continuously and quickly in a controllable manner like a nuclear reactor. To be honest, Hermione was still a little nervous. She was not afraid of failure, and failure was the mother of success. When she was at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, she faced many failures when she improved the time converter and portkey. The road to success is very difficult even for Goddess Hermione. The reason why she was worried about the first generation of Infinity Gem rings was because the energy of Infinity Gems was huge. This thing was much more terrifying than Iron Man's arc reactor. If it exploded, Even if Hermione had many ways to save her life, it would be difficult for her to end up well. So, Hermione would definitely be nervous. She didn't want to be killed before using the power of Infinity Gems. Even if he was not killed, the end of the Hydra leader Red Skull would not be much better. So, we must pay attention to it and not underestimate it. If used well, it is an invincible sword, but if used poorly, it is a double-edged sword that hurts others and oneself. The high imitation version of the mind gem was cold to the touch. It was only as big as a thumbnail, but it was very heavy and should be solid. The energy of this thing cannot be explained by science. Hermione's current level of knowledge cannot fully explain the source of this powerful ability. She does not intend to waste time on this at the moment. The moment the gem and the ring were fused, brilliant light burst out, and then Hermione could control the thoughts and wills of all the creatures around. The range was expanded, and the influence became more terrifying. It felt like changing a bicycle to a motorcycle, full of power and super fast. With the help of the mind gem ring, Hermione soon sensed that Loki was very dishonest and intended to spy on the secrets of Goddess Hermione. How could Hermione let him succeed? She borrowed the power of the high imitation mind gem to control and influence the thoughts of Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, and Black Widow throughout the process, so that they would not reveal any information about themselves to Loki. As for why Hermione didn't just solve Loki and use the mind gem to change him, maybe Goddess Hermione could do it, but if even the villains in the story were controlled by her, it would be too meaningless. Hermione still hoped that as the villain Loki in Avengers 1, he should be more real. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 621. The Avengers' Initial War. Loki would never have dreamed that in just a short while, the female agent Hermione he had met had become even more powerful. She could even control the thoughts of most people here through the mind gem ring. Fast speed, low consumption, and obvious effect. Loki was completely defeated in his fight with Hermione. After he could no longer obtain relevant information about the female agent Hermione, he had to give up and start planning what he had originally planned. Hermione used the mind gem ring only to hide her identity, so that Loki could not find out the truth about Hermione because of the lack of information. As for the rest of the things, Hermione did not make too many changes. So the role of Loki being captured in the S.H.I.E.L.D. space base was once again reflected. First, Iron Man, the Hulk, and Captain America began to distrust S.H.I.E.L.D., and they began to question the real intention of S.H.I.E.L.D. to study the cosmic cube at the beginning. However, it did not reach the level of division. This is normal. The Avengers are a mess. Unless the goddess Hermione comes forward, it is difficult for them to be of one mind. Hermione didn't want to rule them. At most, she would come forward to give some pointers at critical moments. Normally, Hermione would let them do whatever they wanted. Hermione understood that they had to get along with each other for the first time. It would be abnormal if they were all affectionate from the beginning. Thor didn't have much opinion. He didn't like S.H.I.E.L.D. He was just thinking about when the Avengers would let him go so that he could take Loki back to Asgard. However, he also gave face to Goddess Hermione and was not too anxious. He believed that God would make arrangements. So the real pressure of the Avengers came to Black Widow. Black Widow also knew that the female agent Hermione wearing a white mask was very special. She could control the entire Avengers alone. However, Goddess Hermione didn't care about things and didn't get involved in details. Black Widow was not qualified to let Goddess Hermione take care of it by force. If that was the case, then she would come forward. She knew that the breakthrough was Loki. Because Loki is a villain, only by completely destroying the villain's conspiracy can all problems be solved. As for the problems within the Avengers, she is just one of them, and she is powerless to change anything. Besides, she has her own ideas. Came to the glass cell where Loki was imprisoned again. What Loki didn't know was that he was imprisoned twice. The first time, Thor was not involved. The second time, Hermione pulled Thor to join the group in order to obtain the Mind Stone. However, because of ignorance, Loki was quite confident. He sneered at Black Widow. He had a pair of eyes that seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. In fact, he had more information, so he told all the black materials and unbearable past of Black Widow. It was bloody and cruel. If Loki succeeded in obtaining Hermione's information, he would do the same. Unfortunately, Loki's level was not high enough, and he might not have such an opportunity in his life. Black Widow seemed to be broken by what she said, especially about her being a spy from another country and doing some unknown things. Ha. Loki was super proud. What can the Avengers do with people like you? A bunch of brave but foolish guys. For me, if you use your brains a little, you will all be defeated one by one. Obviously Loki did not reveal any key information, but Black Widow suddenly changed her defense just now. She immediately said seriously to the headset, I guessed the real purpose of his voluntary capture. He wanted to detonate the Hulk. In fact, Black Widow could not be completely sure of this guess, but she deliberately said it in front of Loki, and the effect was obvious. Loki's color changed immediately. He thought it was really revealed by his complacency. He does have a shortcoming, which is complacency. When he fought for the throne with Thor in Asgard, he lost because of this. He always overestimates his wisdom and underestimates the ability of the enemy. Often, the opponent does not need a high IQ. As long as his fist is harder than his, he can win. But Loki always acts like others are fools. I am the smartest, likes to show off his tricks, but the result is a miserable defeat. For example, this time, he could have used conservative tactics and used the psychic scepter to control the superheroes he thought could be used as fighting forces one by one. Then he could secretly start a war and rule the earth in one fell swoop. He could even wear a mask like the goddess Hermione and create several clones, so that the people on Earth would not know his true identity until the last moment. But he thought highly of himself and took the initiative to come to the inside of S.H.I.E.L.D., aiming to disintegrate the enemy from within the Avengers. But in this way, he was completely exposed. This plan can only be said to be too dangerous. If it were Hermione, she would definitely not use it. Damn woman, how dare you trick me? Loki was a little furious, but Black Widow didn't want to talk to this villain who had no gentlemanly manners. Being able to dig up a woman's dirty laundry and speak it out in public without mercy is enough to show how shameless this Loki is. He has no manly domineering spirit. As the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury is also under great pressure. He seemed to understand that imprisoning Loki in the spaceship headquarters was a huge mistake. Loki was much more difficult than he thought. Not only did he not get any useful information from Loki, but he also influenced the Avengers, who were already a mess, and even had a tendency to get out of control. Is Loki's ultimate goal the Hulk? This glass cage was originally prepared for the Hulk. And Thor, Iron Man, Captain America and others also learned the news. At this moment, they were arguing in the laboratory. They disagreed not only about Loki, but also about the influence of the Mind Staff next to them. Because Goddess Hermione did not control this staff, so this staff subtly expanded the internal contradictions of the Avengers. The most obvious thing is that Captain America can't stand Iron Man's cynicism, and Iron Man looks down on Captain America, an old antique with 70-year-old ideas. Under normal circumstances, even if both parties can't stand each other's behavior, they will not show it on their faces out of politeness. But under the influence of the Mind Staff, everyone even quarreled because of a certain point of view, until Black Widow got important information from Loki, and all the blame was directed at the Hulk. Bruce Banner. The Hulk's expression was not very comfortable, and he said awkwardly, I have said long ago that my power is not under control, and SHIELD should not have recruited me. The Hulk also began to be on guard, worried that others would control him because of this. He did not trust other members of the Avengers and SHIELD either. The Hulk did not trust anyone present except Goddess Hermione. But he also knew the style of Goddess Hermione. When encountering difficulties, the Hulk would solve them himself and shoulder them himself. Only when he could not resist, Goddess Hermione would take action. So, facing the impending dilemma at this moment, the Hulk decided to solve it himself. If he could dispel the hostility of the crowd, it would be best. If not, he could only use violence to leave this super spaceship and return to his original life state, living in peace with the world. In short, he must not be controlled, no matter what force it is. Chapter 622 Hermione driving a fighter. Calm down, don't be impulsive. Bruce Banner, put down what you have in your hand first. When Iron Man saw what the Hulk was holding, he spoke immediately. At this time, the Hulk just woke up and looked down. He saw that he had picked up the alien Loki's scepter without knowing when. The Hulk was also shocked and threw it away quickly. Everyone woke up and said, "This scepter is strange. We seem to have been bewitched by its power just now." Looking back, the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Hawkeye was controlled by Loki, which might be related to this thing. "I'll go find someone to ask." Black Widow thought of one person, that is Hermione. Maybe only she knows all this. However, at this moment, boom, the terrifying explosion sounded suddenly, and then the entire spaceship was unstable and began to shake. Everyone was shocked. What happened? Commander Nick Fury asked, and the staff in the entire spaceship collectively looked for the reason. Through the monitoring screen, we can see that although the spaceship has the ability to be invisible, it seems that Loki has guided his men to come here through super scientific methods. The leader is Hawkeye. It must be said that Hawkeye's combat power has soared after becoming a villain. Becoming a superhero, the ability is suppressed, otherwise it is invincible. At the same time, it also shows that Loki is really pitiful. A person who intends to invade the Earth has no talents to use. Even Hawkeye is an agent he borrowed from S.H.I.E.L.D. Although Loki started with a scepter and relied on equipment in the later period, he is still a bit skilled after all. Hawkeye is average in fighting the enemy, but he is amazing in fighting his own people. Sitting on the aircraft, an arrow went over, and one of the 4 propellers of the entire spaceship was directly blown out of service. The entire spaceship began to tilt and was in danger. At the same time, in addition to Hawkeye, a large number of assembled combat forces began to attack the S.H.I.E.L.D. spaceship headquarters. These people are also controlled by Loki. At this moment, they are all enemies. The effect of the sneak attack was beyond imagination. If it was a head-on battle, Loki's subordinates, who were small fish and shrimp, were not enough to fight against S.H.I.E.L.D. However, the sneak attack was successful. After the huge spaceship tilted, a large number of fighters on it could not take off, which resulted in the entire spaceship losing the protection of the fighter formation. It can only rely on the firepower of the spaceship itself to fight back. It is very easy to be shot down. In a real war, even if the super spaceship is too huge, it is only a matter of time before it is shot down and crashes into the ground and blows up. In the original movie, it is obvious that the spaceship also has the aura of the protagonist. And here, because of Hermione, the situation naturally has more options. Option 1. Use large-scale, super-strong magic to make all the enemy's air forces fall to the ground. Complete the task and reward the exclusive attribute, Magic, +1. Option 2. Use the Magneto Bracelet. Use the powerful magnetic force to make all the enemy's fighters be squeezed into a ball of scrap metal. Complete the task and reward the exclusive attribute, Fighting Spirit, +1. Option 3. Still use conventional forces to fight, drive a fighter, and successfully save the spaceship. Complete the task and get a reward of +2 basic attributes. Not bad. The 3 options are almost the same. All of them start to participate in the battle. However, the way of fighting is different. The first 2 are definitely much simpler because there is a dimensionality reduction attack. The reward is also what Hermione wants. However, after comparison, Option 3 still gives more. Option 1 and Option 2 are only +1, and only Option 3 is +2, so there is not much suspense. Let's start the war. Hermione came to the place where the spaceship parked the fighter jets. When the spaceship began to tilt, a large number of fighter jets fell down before they took off. The result is imaginable. All of them crashed. This is war, and this is the result of an accidental sneak attack. During World War II, The sneak attack on Pearl Harbor was even more tragic. The reason why there is still a chance to breathe here can only mean that Loki's armed forces are too bad. Loki's badness was within Hermione's expectations. This person has no great talent and strategy. He is okay for small fights, but he can't accomplish anything big. Hermione first used magic to lift up the tilted but not fallen fighter jets. Then with a wave of his hand, all the weapons were automatically loaded, especially the shells. Hermione has not tried to fly a fighter jet to fight, but this is not difficult for Hermione. Hermione is a thoughtful person who loves life and learning. As long as she doesn't know how to do it, she is willing to learn it. She can easily understand Iron Man's armor technology, not to mention flying a fighter jet. She also studied it at the beginning, but there was no seam to play it, and she couldn't use it after learning it. Just like going to school for a few years or more, a lot of knowledge is actually useless in later life, but for all-round development, you have to learn it. What if it is used? For example, in the Avengers, only Iron Man, Black Widow and Hawkeye can fly a fighter jet now. Captain America, Hulk and Thor are definitely not able to do it at present. Even among the agents of SHIELD, there are not many people who can do it, but Hermione is one of them, and she knows more than just the basics. Because the basic attributes of her body have been improved like a Superman, and there are also various magic and skills added, Hermione can drive a fighter jet as easily as controlling a sword in her hand. Whoosh! The fighter jet flew out of the super spaceship at a high speed, spewing flaming exhaust in the air. Inside the spaceship, Nick Fury, the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., saw it first. He asked in surprise, "Who is it? You can still fly a fighter jet to fight at this time?" At this time, all the agents in the entire command room began to connect, and Hermione did not refuse. Her figure wearing a mask appeared on the big screen inside the super spaceship. "I'm attacking outside, and you can cooperate with me with your artillery fire to cover me." After Hermione finished speaking, she pressed the button to launch missiles. Boom, boom. Two enemy aircraft that had just approached Hermione and had not had time to shoot immediately exploded with brilliant flames. The enemy's bullets shot like raindrops and hit the deck of the spaceship, sparks and lightning. However, Hermione operated the fighter jet, flexibly like a swallow, and easily dodged it. Then she pressed the button of the machine gun, and the straight bullets, like a life-threatening line, instantly penetrated the enemy's aircraft. Boom boom boom. The sound of explosions continued. The scene of Hermione driving a fighter jet to fight was like art. There was a world of difference between her fighter jet and the enemy's aircraft. That's Agent Hermione. Too strong. There were many enemies, but Hermione only needed one person and one fighter jet. No missile was wasted. Not even a bullet could hit the enemy. Nick Fury, the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., was shocked beyond words. When did such an outstanding driver hide inside his shield? This driving skill is truly unique. The key is that the enemy's attacks can't hit her at all. Black Widow ran to Hermione to find a solution, and she was also very surprised to see the scenes outside. Deep down, her impression of Agent Hermione was even deeper. Not only did all the superheroes of the Avengers respect her, but her own strength was also so terrifying. Chapter 623, Hulk beats Black Widow. Hermione is like the godfather of war, showing the enemy what the art of war is. In this battle, Hermione not only tried guns and ammunition, but also completed the battle by flying a fighter jet. Even without using magic, even without using Magneto's bracelet, Hermione is still a crushing opponent against dozens of enemy aircraft. Hermione alone, fighting against the enemy's aircraft formation. A fierce battle also broke out inside the spaceship. First, Iron Man took Captain America to repair one of the 4 propellers destroyed by the enemy. The propeller was super huge, and the enemy's firepower was not strong enough to completely destroy it, so it could only destroy the main power unit. Iron Man is a mecha player, and in this regard, he is also an engineer. He understands. Captain America thinks this task is very important, and it is related to the life and death of everyone inside the entire super spaceship. Although Captain America's thinking is a bit old-fashioned, his overall view is usually not a big problem. and Commander Nick Fury of SHIELD, who is also the highest decision-maker of this super spaceship, has decided to force the super spaceship to land on the sea and try to minimize casualties. The more sophisticated things are, the easier they are to be damaged. Even if the super spaceship has 4 super propellers, if one is broken, there is a risk of crashing. So, even though Captain America knows nothing, he decided to come to help Iron Man. Iron Man felt that it was useless for Captain America, a layman, to come, so it would be better to let the Hulk come. After all, the Hulk is a doctor and can definitely help. However, time is urgent, and the Hulk's power is difficult to control. If he comes, not only will he not help, but he will suddenly go crazy and directly destroy the huge propeller, then there will be no hope. So, in the end, Iron Man did not refuse Captain America to join the repair team. Of course, at this time, a large number of enemies have invaded. The enemy's strategy is also problematic. They look like they are here to rescue the evil god Loki. But in fact, as long as the goddess Hermione does not take action, Loki can escape by himself. Don't forget that Loki is a great wizard. Although he likes close combat most of the time and then gets abused, that's his problem. It has nothing to do with his magic. Before SHIELD fully understood his abilities, there was no way to restrain him. Therefore, the enemy's invasion became ridiculous. Explosion is an art. If the enemy invades the spaceship, they will start various explosions to destroy various important facilities inside the spaceship. Even if the exterior of this super spaceship is intact, the interior will be blown up and can only fall and be destroyed. Unfortunately, the enemy is as petty as Loki. After invading the interior of the spaceship, they only use rifles and bullets to attack. Although there is still some efficiency in killing people, the damage to the spaceship is almost negligible. Compared with the combat capability of individual soldiers, how can these enemies be the opponents of the Avengers? Even without the Avengers, even SHIELD, they are not opponents. With this kind of combat method, it is only a matter of time before the enemy is wiped out one by one. Maybe Loki doesn't care about the life and death of these men at all, and he is cannon fodder himself. Even Hawkeye, who is controlled by him. In the attack of these bullets will cause great trouble for Iron Man and Captain America to repair. Iron Man was in a rush while repairing the line and resisting the enemy's bullets. Even with Captain America's help, it was still the same. The main reason was that Captain America was a close combat, and he didn't even have a pistol on him for long-range attacks. At this time, he could only miss Agent Hermione. Her shooting skills were amazing. If she were here, no matter how many enemies there were, it would only be a matter of 1 bullet per person. With her here, the enemy couldn't waste bullets even if they wanted Hermione to do so. The Hulk was also harassed by bullets. He couldn't get angry. If he got angry, no one could stop him except his ex-girlfriend and Hermione. But at this moment, the enemy's bullets were fired at him as if they were free. In the eyes of the enemy, before the Hulk transformed, he was just a mortal. If he was hit by a bullet, he would definitely be like an ordinary SHIELD agent, bleeding profusely and dying tragically in a pool of blood. But what a pity. The Hulk is different. Ouch. The Hulk was finally enraged. He roared like a beast, and the sound was loud enough to shatter the glass. Oops. Black Widow reacted and hurried to stop the Hulk. When others saw the Hulk going crazy, they all wanted to run away. But Black Widow wanted to solve the problem. It was mainly a sense of responsibility, because the Hulk was brought by her. If there was any problem with the Hulk, Black Widow naturally could not sit idly by. However, the scene in front of her was not something she could control at all. Boom. The Hulk's skin was green all over, and his body was huge. The bullets hit him, and even white marks could not be left. This was really harder than steel plates. Although the bullets could not hurt the Hulk, it hurt. There was still pain. The pain plus the annoyance of the bullets was enough to make the Hulk angry. He jumped violently, and was 7 or 8 meters away. The enemy who was still shooting was dumbfounded. Fuck, what kind of monster is this? The Hulk stretched out his green giant hand and grabbed the enemy's submachine gun. The gun body was still very solid, because the barrel was very hot due to continuous firing. But when the Hulk grabbed it, There was a crackling sound, and the submachine gun was directly crushed into rotten iron. Ah! The enemy screamed and was slapped away by the Hulk like a fly. The bones of his body were beaten into tofu dregs, and he couldn't die anymore. Black Widow was terrified when she saw this scene. She finally understood why the Hulk was the most dangerous SSS in the file. This is simply invincible. Black Widow underestimated the strength of the Hulk. She even underestimated that the Hulk would not recognize his relatives when he was furious. Bruce Banner. Black Widow just called the Hulk's name carefully, and immediately attracted the Hulk's violent attack. The ferocious look was more terrifying than a tank rolling over. Black Widow didn't dare to stop at all, and immediately turned around and started to run away. Boom. Although her physique is far superior to that of an ordinary person, it is far inferior to that of the invincible tank Hulk. Steel is like paper in front of the Hulk's rage. Black Widow fled quickly with her agility, but the angry Hulk was not without wisdom. He tore down the heavy iron door and threw it directly at Black Widow. Boom. The horrible impact was like a cannonball. Black Widow's face was pale and her whole body was soaked with sweat. She was almost smashed into a pulp, but just after she dodged, the Hulk chased her madly and was invincible. It was the first time that Black Widow felt so scared. This Hulk was so terrifying. No wonder an entire army couldn't catch him. How to fight? Just when Black Widow was forced into a desperate situation, the superhero came. He was Thor, an alien with the blood of the gods. He heard the noise and rushed over to see the Hulk beating Black Widow. He was also notified by S.H.I.E.L.D. and knew that the green monster in front of him was the Bruce Banner. Bullying a woman is nothing. Come and fight me. Thor raised his hammer and smashed it towards the Hulk, with the same momentum as the Hulk. Chapter 624. The weight of Thor's hammer. Thor was very confident. He felt that as the god of Asgard, it would be easy for him to deal with the uncontrollable Hulk, but he underestimated. Boom. The Hulk's brutal collision was so strong that Thor was knocked away. In the first round, Thor was completely at a disadvantage. Black Widow was very worried about Thor's situation, but she also understood that with her strength, staying here would only be a hindrance to Thor. Besides, there were still many enemies inside the spacecraft that she needed to deal with. She could only play a role elsewhere. Thor was not angry about Black Widow's departure. This green monster was so strong that he could not fight it. Black Widow would be a death sentence if she stayed here. It would be better for her to leave so that Thor could participate in the battle without distraction. Boom. Another fierce collision. This time, Thor barely knocked the Hulk back a step, but Thor flew out again. It was a bit aggrieved. In terms of brute force, Thor is not as good as the Hulk, but Thor's strengths are also limited in this place. If he were outside, Thor could fly into the sky and hit the Hulk on the ground from a high place. Now it is not possible, and Thor is still tied up and unable to exert his full strength. Otherwise, with his combat power and the destructive power of the Hulk, the damage to the spacecraft is almost more serious than the enemy invasion. Suddenly, the Hulk became impatient. He roared and rushed over at a faster speed, directly knocking Thor away again, smashing multiple steel walls along the way. Ordinary people would have turned into meat paste at this level, but fortunately Thor could still resist. But the Hulk rushed over again, and Thor didn't dare to let the Hulk fight in close combat. That guy, the collision is so terrible, and it is unimaginable to get close. In a hurry, Thor threw Thor's hammer in his hand. Ordinary monsters will definitely be smashed to pieces when they encounter the Thor's hammer of justice from heaven. However, the Hulk was not ordinary. He caught the flying Thor's hammer. He had just seen Thor use it very smoothly. When it hit him, the pain was more intense than being hit by a cannonball. The Hulk also wanted to use it to loosen Thor's bones. But what could he do? The famous scene appeared. This hammer looked small, but not everyone could use it. Thor picked it up easily, but the Hulk was much stronger than Thor, and he couldn't lift it at all. Not only that, when Thor's hammer fell, the Hulk fell down with it because he was still holding the hammer handle. Ouch! The Hulk roared, as if he felt that falling down in this way was a bit embarrassing. He grabbed the hammer handle with both hands, as if he wanted to rely on his omnipotent brute force to lift it up. However, the result was unbelievable to him. Can't lift it up? Thor was also a little dumbfounded. When he swung Thor's hammer, the Hulk collided with him and flew with the hammer. However, the Hulk couldn't even lift Thor's hammer. That means, Thor plus Thor's hammer Hulk, but Thor's hammer greater than Hulk. That's what happened. Thor felt so embarrassed. Thor's hammer could defeat the Hulk, but when Thor's hammer was added to him, it was no match for the Hulk. Thor knew how to deal with the Hulk. He waved his hand, and Thor's hammer flew over as ordered, but Thor didn't fight with Thor's hammer like he did just now. Instead, he threw Thor's hammer out and let the hammer fight the Hulk. The Hulk got angry. He didn't believe in evil, and fought Thor's hammer head-on. The result was obvious. His invincible Hulk was suppressed by Thor's hammer again. However, at this time, Loki started to make trouble. He heard the sound of fighting coming from the spaceship, and he knew that his plan was successful. From the inside of the opponent, they were completely disintegrated and destroyed. He knew magic and easily broke free of the handcuffs and moved out of the special glass cage. He turned back and sneered. He had been acting for so long, and he really looked up to this group of human Avengers. Phil Coulson, a level 9 agent of SHIELD, seemed to have a hunch that Loki would cause trouble. He came with weapons developed by the Cosmic Cube and planned to deal with Loki. Special times call for special treatment. Loki's death is the most valuable. Agent Phil Coulson's idea was very good, but unfortunately he underestimated the enemy's ability. When Loki got his Mind Scepter back, he turned into a golden armor again and became the villain who was going to invade the Earth. Hermione did not hide or possess his scepter privately. The genuine mind gem on this scepter still has many important roles in the subsequent stories. Hermione would naturally not destroy the direction of the whole story for her own personal preferences. It was because of this that Loki had the opportunity to get his weapon back. Suddenly, Loki was shot from behind. Loki was knocked away. His defense was not as good as Thor's, but he was not seriously injured. After getting up and seeing that it was Agent Phil Coulson who shot him, Loki did not hesitate at all and turned around to shoot. The beam emitted by the Mind Scepter directly killed Agent Phil Coulson. At the same time, the Hulk stopped fighting with Thor and jumped towards a fighter outside the spacecraft. The pilot of the fighter wanted to help Thor because the Hulk had caused too much damage to the interior of the spacecraft, but the Hulk attacked him directly. In the end, the pilot ejected and opened the parachutes to escape. The Hulk fell directly to the ground with the fighter. At this height, ordinary people may not be able to find their bodies if they fall, but the Hulk was just knocked unconscious. Thor solved the crisis of the Hulk and thought of Loki. He understood that all these reasons were caused by Loki. He must not let him run away. However, when Thor arrived, he just saw Agent Phil Coulson being killed. Thor was furious. Loki with a roar. Thor rushed towards Loki, vowing to fight him to the death. However, Loki was extremely cunning. He took the opportunity to open the door of the glass cage and instantly disappeared. Thor accidentally ran into the cage that originally held Loki. Loki clicked the close button, then looked at Thor with a mocking face and said, "You are still the same, reckless." Thor was extremely angry. "Loki, let me out. Let's fight openly." Loki continued to laugh and said, "Don't be stupid. SHIELD designed this thing. Just use you as an experiment, and see what will happen if you fall into this cage." As he said, Loki pressed the switch, and Thor, who was not ready yet, fell into the glass cage instantly. Whoosh! There was a huge sound of wind outside the glass cage, but nothing could be heard inside. Thor looked at the ground getting closer and closer, knowing that even if he was a god, he couldn't take the risk. When he was about to fall to the ground, he swung Thor's hammer to break the glass, jumped out, and then rolled awkwardly for more than 10 meters before he came to a stop. Chapter 625, Loki is blown away by Hermione. He remembered this grudge. Thor gnashed his teeth. On the Hulk's side, he fell to a farm, and a shed was smashed to pieces by him. At this time, an old man came to check. The Hulk woke up slowly, and he recovered after the smash. After all, the Hulk's transformation is also limited in time, and he is not always in the Hulk state. "Are you okay, young man?" The Hulk Bruce Banner said embarrassedly. "I'm fine. I didn't cause any casualties here." "No casualties, but you scared my flock. The old man was not simple either. He saw that the Hulk fell from the sky, but when he woke up, the Hulk didn't even have a skin injury. At most, he was covered in dust and looked very embarrassed. "Young man, are you an alien?" The Hulk shook his head awkwardly. "I was shot down by aliens." On the Black Widow's side, she didn't know that the Hulk and Thor fell from the spaceship in different ways. Fortunately, both of them have special skills and did not die. However, Agent Phil Coulson died. He is also an old face in SHIELD. Black Widow is dealing with the last wave of enemies invading the spaceship. The leader is also someone Black Widow knows, Hawkeye. Hawkeye is controlled, and there is no emotion in his eyes. There are only combat orders issued by Loki. Hawkeye, who has no emotions, has such explosive combat power, but Black Widow has professional skills to deal with Hawkeye. Because the two are very familiar with each other, Black Widow knows Hawkeye's shortcomings. Hawkeye is suitable for long-range attacks, but not so good in close combat. Black Widow has no way to deal with the crazy Hulk, but she can still deal with Hawkeye. Black Widow did not escape. She quickly sneaked up and fought with Hawkeye. After a few rounds, Hawkeye was at a disadvantage. Then accidentally, the back of his head hit the railing directly, making a bang. Natasha Romanoff is the name of Black Widow. Hawkeye suddenly called Black Widow like this, which means that Hawkeye has regained some consciousness after the collision. However, Black Widow did not dare to recognize Hawkeye rashly, and first completely controlled Hawkeye. With a heavy blow, Hawkeye was completely knocked unconscious. Then he was taken to a secret room and tied up. Hawkeye. Black Widow was also brainwashed in the former spy organization. Although she was controlled differently from Hawkeye, Black Widow understood that it would not be so easy to make Hawkeye recover completely. She needed to awaken Hawkeye's own consciousness and let his will completely occupy his own body. In the original play, Loki did not pay attention to Hawkeye at all. Hawkeye was captured by Black Widow, and he left without caring at all. Loki here did not know that Hawkeye had failed and was captured, but before he left, he wanted to do something. Because Iron Man and Captain America, after going through various difficulties, actually repaired one of the 4 huge propellers of the super spaceship that was damaged. This won't do. Such a huge high-tech warship must be destroyed. Loki planned to sabotage it and make the super ship explode directly. However, when he was planning this, an option dialog box popped up in front of Ms. Hermione, who was driving the fighter. Option 1. Successfully stop Loki's conspiracy and save the super ship. Complete the task and get a basic attribute +1. Option 2. It's time to put some pressure on SHIELD and the Avengers. Help Loki arrange 2 nuclear bombs to completely destroy this super ship. Complete the task and get a reward of 3 nuclear warheads. Option 3. Go down and see the Hulk and Thor to see if they fell to death. Complete the task and get a special attribute, Care, +1. The correct answers to these 3 options are too obvious. Hermione has many ways to stop Loki, but she chose the most normal way, the method of missile plus magic. The last missile on the fighter was fired. The flame carried the missile and hit Loki directly. It is not easy for ordinary missiles to hit Loki, but Hermione attached advanced magic to make it invisible. At the same time, the explosion mechanism of the missile was also changed. Normal missiles will explode after hitting the target. However, the last missile launched by Hermione was not only hidden to the point that Loki could not detect it at all. When Loki saw the missile, his eyes were filled with inexplicable horror, and his whole body was directly knocked out of the spaceship by the huge impact of the missile. During this process, the missile did not explode, until Loki and his scepter flew out of the spaceship a few hundred meters away. Boom. The missile exploded. Loki was directly blown away. If Loki did not know magic, he would not be able to withstand such a close-range explosion even if he was a god of Asgard. In a forest on the ground, even if Loki used magic to transfer here, the huge explosion shockwave still rushed him and broke several trees in a row before stopping. When he struggled to get up, his whole body was black and his hair was burned. His degree of embarrassment was no different from Thor and the Hulk falling down. Damn it, who launched the missile? How could an ordinary missile hit him? The evil god Loki. There is something strange. It's too weird. Loki couldn't figure it out, but now he was in such a mess that he didn't have the face to go back to the S.H.I.E.L.D. spaceship to cause trouble. Loki left and started his next plan to invade the Earth. Hermione saw Loki from a very far distance. Seeing that he was not killed by the explosion, Hermione was relieved. At this time, Loki couldn't die. It was not time for him to get a box lunch yet. A few hours later, the Avengers returned again. Everyone was in a bad mood, except for the goddess Hermione wearing a mask. Black Widow was not here. She was helping Hawkeye with recovery treatment. Damn Loki, we must avenge this. Agent Phil Coulson is dead. Before he died, he hoped that the Avengers could work together well and not be a mess again. Commander Nick Fury said sadly. Captain America was the saddest, because Agent Phil Coulson was his fan. He still had a bloody card on him, which showed what Captain America looked like when he was a super soldier. Loki dares to be so reckless because he knows that we can't fight together. Captain America slammed his fist on the table and said seriously, but this time, I want to tell him that he is wrong. Even Iron Man became serious. He has completely pissed us off. The Avengers were officially established at this moment. On the side of Black Widow and Hawkeye, with the encouragement of Black Widow, Hawkeye finally drove out all the consciousness that did not belong to him in his brain. He was fully recovered, just like recovering from a serious illness. He was exhausted and sweaty, but he still insisted on letting Black Widow support him and come to the Avengers meeting room. When he came in, he said weakly, "I'm sorry for causing so much trouble to you." Everyone looked a little strange. Hawkeye was played the worst by Loki. He was obviously a senior agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., but he became a tool for Loki to sabotage. It's not your fault. Everything was caused by Loki, the alien. Commander Nick Fury comforted Hawkeye and told him not to feel too guilty. At this time, even Thor distanced himself from Loki and said, "In the battle, Loki is not my brother, he is our common enemy." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.